Chapter 161, Center of Sea of Consciousness Plus, Turn Off Reset. Orion relaxed, feeling the subtle pressure in his mind dissipate. 3 new spells now floated elegantly within his sea of consciousness, their structures stable and clearly defined. Good, I've got 4 spells now, he said to himself, pleased. Congratulations, Master. Orion gently smiled and turned around, looking at the boundless expanse of azure in front of him. Lumi, where is the center of my sea of consciousness? I can't seem to pinpoint it. The center of your SOC holds your soul, Master. So it's hidden within the SOC. You won't be able to find it until you increase your strength further. And it's quite useless for you right now. So, when someone attacks the soul using spirit arts, does the soul tank the damage directly? He asked while floating here and there inside his SOC, feeling the presence of his abilities and the soul-piercer sword within. Yes, but spirit art users can also form defenses around their soul. Then there are treasures to guard the soul, but those are rather rare to find. Well, I'll learn spirit arts once I get more time on my hands. There are no beginner spells for the soul on that path anyway. I remember someone saying, I feel like a bum, waking up, eating, sleeping. How does it feel now? Orion chuckled to himself while returning his consciousness to the physical realm. Well, I certainly didn't expect myself to not even have the time to breathe. And hell, I haven't even started learning any of the paths yet. What you're trying to learn would take others a few lifetimes to master, of course you won't have time if you're trying to hurry. He softly laughed while standing up and stretching. I would have just eaten and slept if I didn't want to hurry up. My dragon lineage would have made me stronger over time anyway. That's why you're the greatest. He shook his head with amusement. You little glazer. Alright, I should head to sleep now. Time to rest now, Master. You've worked incredibly hard today. Orion chuckled softly, making his way toward his comfortable bed. It's going to be every day now, haha. Settling into the luxurious comfort of the sheets, Orion gently closed his eyes, thoughts drifting lazily. I should check on Seraph tomorrow morning. I couldn't check up on her today after the academy. I wonder how she's doing after that whole thing. Good idea, Master. Seraph must be deeply in love with you now. Let's go and check up on her in the morning. Orion speechlessly stared at the floating window. Hold your horses now and let me sleep in peace. Good night, Master. Sweet dreams about me. Superscript 3. Orion just decided to ignore her and rolled to the side to sleep. Morning sunlight gently streamed through the windows, bathing Orion's room in warm golden hues. Orion stirred awake, his eyelids fluttering open slowly. Sitting up, he stretched lazily, feeling refreshed and reinvigorated by the restful sleep. Good morning, Lil Lumi. Good morning, Master. Greater than over equal to less than over equal to. Orion lightly smiled seeing her enthusiasm before heading to the washroom. Shortly after, he returned and sat down in the middle of the room, taking a steady breath to calm himself. Alright, I should make it a routine to train in the morning after waking up. I only need a few hours of sleep now anyway, he said inwardly. That's a smart use of time, Master. As you level up in the tiers, your need for sleep will reduce, until you can just wake up perpetually. Double the life, haha. He thought to himself in amusement. Then, without wasting another second, he began smoothly cycling through Celine's basic mana training technique. His mana channels flowed with effortless harmony, cycling mana before it reached the SOC. However, it was clearly less effective than yesterday, as he could feel himself reaching the limits of Tier 1. But he didn't mind and continued to do it until he completed the sequence seamlessly, feeling the familiar mana circulating freely within him. Next, Orion shifted immediately into practicing the ninefold body refinement scripture. Mana flowed smoothly through his body, immediately eliciting the familiar sensation of internal warmth. The familiar burning sensation rose again gradually, growing intense yet controlled. Orion breathed steadily, enduring calmly as the mana refined his muscles and skin meticulously. Each breath and circulation strengthened him slightly more, building upon yesterday's initial session. After nearly 2 hours of combined training, Orion paused, breathing deeply as sweat glistened upon his forehead. He could feel his physique growing stronger, much more clearly than his mana cultivation. The intense heat radiating from his body was the clear sign of progress. After finishing training, he sat there and breathed deeply to calm his body. As he caught his breath, a gentle knock sounded at his door, followed quickly by Rena's cheerful voice. "Master, good morning. Are you awake yet?" she called warmly, her tone filled with gentle affection. cthnovelfire.net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Orion smiled faintly, approaching the door and opening it gently. "Good morning, Rena, Fiora." Both maids greeted him brightly, their expressions warmly welcoming. Fiora shyly handed him a neatly folded towel, speaking softly. Master, today's herbal bath is prepared specially for muscle relaxation, as instructed by Lady Celine. Why, you trained hard yesterday." Orion smiled warmly, accepting the towel gratefully. "Thank you, both of you." Together, they headed toward the luxurious bath, the chamber fragrant with a relaxing herbal aroma. Orion sank comfortably into the warm, soothing waters, feeling his muscles instantly relax under the gentle heat. Rena and Fiora carefully assisted him, washing his body delicately while gently massaging away any lingering tension. After enjoying the comforting bath thoroughly, Orion rose, allowing the maids to help dry and dress him comfortably for the academy. "Thank you, Rena, Fiora." The bath was truly wonderful, Orion praised gently, feeling rejuvenated. Both maids smiled shyly, bowing slightly. "It's our pleasure, Master," Rena chimed warmly. Orion glanced thoughtfully toward the door. "I need to check on Seraph. I couldn't visit her yesterday after the academy due to all the practice and work." Fiora and Rena looked at each other, wondering if something had happened. But they didn't ask anything and bowed softly. He exited his room and turned to head toward Seraph's room beside his own. Lumi chimed in cheerfully, the screen appearing playfully in front of him as they walked. "I'm excited to see Seraph too, Master. I wonder how she will treat you now." Asterisk. Orion nodded thoughtfully. "I wonder what her reaction will be as well. I also want to ask her about what the vendor told me, that she might be cursed or afflicted with some illness. Maybe the 3 lives morning dew would help if that's the case. We need to first make sure if she is cursed or not, Master. We can't take the shady vendor's word seriously." Yes, I know." Shaking his head lightly, he reached Seraph's room. He paused briefly before knocking twice, mildly expecting a response this time. He heaved a sigh after waiting for a while. "It's me, Seraph. I'm coming inside." Still, no response from the room, but he didn't mind and softly opened the door. Looking inside, he saw her sitting there at the window, looking toward the sky with the same lost expression. "Good morning, Seraph," he said with a smile as he entered, noticing a plate sitting beside her at the table. Good, at least she is eating now, he thought to himself with relief. She turned away from the window and looked toward him, her eyes holding a bit more life than before as her gaze landed on him. He gently smiled and sat down across from her. "How are you feeling now?" She softly nodded her head, making Orion raise an eyebrow. "Can you not talk?" She hesitated for a moment, her eyes shifting here and there before she took a deep breath. I. She tried to speak, yet couldn't form coherent words. Orion's expression turned serious as he sensed the hesitation and unfamiliarity she held in trying to speak. He gestured with his hands to calm her down. "No need to force yourself. I can wait until you're in a better condition for a chat." Her lips clamped shut as she lowered her head. Her shoulders trembled slightly. She hated this. Hated that she couldn't speak to the one person who had made her feel safe in years. The only person who had treated her with warmth since her mother's passing. But no tears came. They had long since dried up. He observed her fragile state and spoke in the gentlest voice he could manage. "Seraph, if you ever feel like talking, just know I'll be here." Take all the time you need, there's no rush, alright? Seraph didn't raise her head but softly nodded. Orion also didn't speak, choosing to sit silently rather than leave her alone too quickly. Time passed until a knock sounded on the door. Master, you will be late for the academy, Rena's soft voice came from outside. Orion raised his head and realized he had been sitting in silence with Seraph for a while now. He looked apologetically toward her. Sorry, Seraph. I need to go to the academy now. I'll come back later. She raised her head, now having calmed down, and softly nodded. He smiled lightly and exited the room. Outside, Rena stood, looking playfully at him. Hee, you spent an awfully long time today, Master. What happened? Orion lightly chuckled and shook his head. Nothing happened. I just sat in silence without chatting. Rena looked at him with a suspicious gaze but didn't comment further. Orion smiled lightly, shaking his head at Rena's playful suspicion. He gently reached out and lightly ruffled her hair, making her cheeks flush softly. Alright, stop letting your imagination run wild. Let's head down, Grandma and Grandpa must be waiting, Orion chuckled warmly, his expression gently amused. Why yes, Master. Rena replied quickly, cheeks still faintly pink as she hurried ahead. Orion watched her leave, smiling slightly before calmly following her through the corridor. The mansion, bathed in the morning sunlight, felt especially serene and comforting. Search the novel, F.ir.at website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. The gentle aroma of freshly baked bread and breakfast filled the elegant corridors, further adding warmth to the grand estate. He stepped into the dining hall, greeted immediately by the sight of Eldrick and Celine already seated at the ornate dining table. The breakfast spread before them was truly appetizing, freshly baked bread, creamy butter, various fruits, cheeses, cured meats, and freshly brewed aromatic tea. Ah, lad, you're finally here, Eldrick greeted warmly, smiling playfully at his grandson. We thought you didn't want to go to the academy today. Celine gently chuckled, taking a delicate sip of her tea. Now, old man, Orion is far too disciplined for that. He was probably training early this morning, right? Orion smiled, taking his seat smoothly and reaching out to pour himself some tea. Yes, Grandma. The scripture you gave me is surprisingly effective. I already feel noticeable improvements after just 2 sessions. Celine smiled gently, nodding approvingly. That scripture has been passed down through generations in powerful warrior clans. It is probably one of the best foundational scriptures out there in human lands. Keep diligently practicing it, and the results will truly amaze you. Eldrick nodded thoughtfully, cutting a slice of bread and spreading some butter generously. Indeed. Remember, consistency and moderation are key. It's good you're ambitious, but take care not to overexert yourself. You've trained in it twice already and 12 hours haven't even passed. I'll remember, Grandpa. Orion smiled lightly, appreciating their genuine care. They ate peacefully, engaging in gentle conversation. Eldrick recounted some amusing tales of his younger days as a handsome mage, while Celine occasionally corrected his exaggerated retellings with gentle laughter. Orion listened intently, enjoying the harmonious family moment and the calm before his busy day. As breakfast concluded, Orion placed down his empty cup and rose from his seat. I should be leaving now. Arya and Amelia are likely waiting at the academy already. Eldrick nodded, chuckling softly. Of course, lad. Make us proud. Celine smiled warmly, her eyes sparkling fondly. Do take care of yourself, dear. Orion chuckled softly, nodding appreciatively. Thank you, Grandma. I'll see you both later. He exited the mansion, stepping into the bright morning sunlight. Outside, the luxurious obsidian carriage awaited him. The polished, gleaming black surface reflected the golden rays of the morning sun, creating a beautiful, almost ethereal glow. Edgar stood calmly beside the carriage, his ever-composed expression respectful and patient. Lucan leaned casually against the side of the carriage with a pebble in his hand, his stance relaxed as he cheerfully waved at Orion. Good morning, young master, Edgar greeted respectfully, opening the carriage door for him. Lucan smiled playfully, tipping an imaginary hat. Morning, young master. Ready for another exciting day filled with your many admirers? Orion rolled his eyes lightly at Lucan's teasing, climbing gracefully into the carriage. Good morning to you both. Let's get going. Lucan laughed warmly, quickly hopping onto the driver's seat and snapping the reins. Edgar joined Orion inside, the carriage swiftly beginning its smooth journey toward Thunder Peak Royal Academy. The journey was swift and peaceful, Orion lost in thought about his earlier visit with Seraph. He couldn't just forget about what had happened there. She clearly wanted to talk with him, yet she couldn't. Do you have any idea what's happening with her? He asked lightly. I don't know, master, but you seem to have a guess. She must have been through so much trauma, it's like she's forgotten how to speak. I remember reading about cases like this. People who spend too long in isolation or under extreme stress sometimes lose the ability to talk properly. Seraph. He lightly shook his head. Don't worry, she's now in good hands. I'll try my best to heal her. As the carriage arrived at the grand gates of Thunder Peak Royal Academy, Orion stepped out calmly, bidding farewell to Edgar and Lucan before making his way toward the central garden, where Arya and Amelia often spent their mornings. Upon arriving, Orion quickly spotted the two girls seated gracefully on one of the stone benches beneath a blossoming tree. Arya saw him first, smiling brightly as she waved enthusiastically. Brother Orion. Good morning. Arya greeted warmly, eyes sparkling. Amelia nodded toward him quietly, her slightly warm yet cool gaze and calm demeanor radiating tranquility. Orion approached smoothly, smiling warmly in greeting. Morning, Arya, Amelia. How are you two? Arya giggled lightly, her voice filled with gentle warmth. We're doing great. Amelia and I were just chatting about your impressive performance against Sylvia yesterday. You've become quite the celebrity overnight. Orion chuckled softly, shaking his head slightly. I wouldn't call it impressive yet, but thank you. Amelia softly smiled, glancing up thoughtfully. So, what's your next plan? You seem busy lately. Orion nodded, turning slightly more serious. Actually, I wanted to ask about the library. I heard it has countless valuable books and resources, but how exactly do I get academy credits to access them? Arya smiled knowingly, exchanging a quick glance with Amelia before answering. You'll need to challenge the Tower of Myths first. It's one of the primary methods to earn academy credits. The higher your ranking, the more monthly credits you'll receive. Orion raised an eyebrow thoughtfully. Interesting. That means competition among students must be quite fierce. Arya nodded. Precisely. This system was intentionally established to motivate students and foster competitiveness. The tower records your results, and based on your performance, you'll receive a certain amount of academy credits monthly. She leaned in slightly, excitement evident in her eyes. Many students aim for higher rankings to get access to rare and advanced books. Even noble families can't simply buy their way in. The system is designed to reward skill, talent, and hard work. Orion nodded thoughtfully, understanding dawning clearly in his eyes. I see. Then I suppose I must challenge it soon if I want access to the knowledge within the library. Arya clapped her hands together happily. Exactly. It'll be so exciting to see how you perform. With your talent, I bet you'll rise quickly in the rankings. Amelia quietly smiled, nodding softly in agreement. Orion chuckled lightly, appreciative of their confidence. Thank you, both. I'll head to the Tower of Myths immediately. Hopefully, I'll earn enough credits quickly. Arya nodded eagerly. We'll be waiting to hear all about it afterward. Then it's decided, Orion smiled warmly, glancing at the Academy's clock tower. Classes should be starting soon. I'll meet you two afterward. SAR the Novel Fire. Any *T website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Arya waved cheerfully as Orion departed. See you later, brother Orion. Orion smoothly turned away from Arya and Amelia, his gaze shifting toward the distant, towering structure that loomed majestically above the academy, the Tower of Myths. Its elegant yet imposing architecture reached high into the clouds, the sun reflecting off its polished marble exterior, causing the tower to gleam brightly, almost ethereally, against the clear morning sky. As he walked towards it, Orion felt a mix of excitement and curiosity building within him. The Tower of Myths was not only central to the Academy's culture but also a proving ground, a place where reputations were forged, and where every student's strength and potential could be thoroughly measured. Lumi, I've been thinking, Orion began with a thoughtful expression. I think it's about time I tried the Origin mana pool. My mana cultivation feels properly stabilized now, and my physique training is progressing well. Lumi's floating screen sparkled enthusiastically in front of him. Ooh. That's a fantastic idea, Master. The Origin mana pool is perfect for someone like you, especially with your special mana channels and physique refinement. The rapid growth could propel you directly toward the peak of Tier 1 or even Tier 2 in no time. Orion smiled slightly at her contagious excitement. That's exactly what I thought. With the club members assembled, and my training finally on the right track, I can afford to focus more on personal advancement. My mana and physique need to reach their peak as soon as possible. Exactly, Master. After all, you must maintain your perfect prodigy image. Plus, we'll gain valuable insights into your mana channel's unique nature when exposed to such a dense mana environment. He chuckled lightly at her playful exaggeration. You make it sound like I'm doing it purely for reputation. I just want to ensure my foundation is absolutely perfect. Hee, of course, Master. I know you better than anyone else. Greater than over equal to less than over equal to. Orion shook his head slightly, smiling softly. His attention returned fully to the Tower of Myths, his steps bringing him closer. As he approached, he noticed Instructor Viren seated calmly near the tower's entrance, observing the students entering and exiting the tower. Viren sat comfortably on a simple wooden bench, a small book in one hand and his other hand gently adjusting the silver-rimmed spectacles resting on his nose. Noticing Orion's approach, Viren calmly looked up, his eyes briefly twinkling with mild interest as he closed his book. Ah, Orion Hellstrom. Good to see you again, he greeted smoothly, his voice warm yet authoritative. Orion inclined his head respectfully. Good morning, Instructor Viren. I hope I'm not disturbing your reading. Viren shook his head with a faint smile. Not at all. It's part of my duties to supervise the tower entrance periodically. Watching students here gives me an excellent sense of their growth, potential, and determination. Orion's gaze flickered thoughtfully towards the massive, rune-covered door of the tower. Instructor, I plan to challenge the Tower of Myths today. Arya explained briefly about its structure, but I was hoping to hear more detailed information from you directly. Viren adjusted his glasses lightly, clearly pleased by Orion's thoughtful approach. Of course. The tower has 100 floors, each containing a unique opponent, echoes, we call them. They are precise reflections of legendary past students, showcasing their original fighting techniques, elemental affinities, and tactical genius. Orion listened carefully, nodding slightly in understanding as Viren continued. Your goal is simple, defeat the echo on each floor to ascend higher. You earn ranking points, or RP, each time you successfully clear a floor for the first time. At the end of every month, students receive Academy credits based on their rankings. The higher your rank, the more credits you'll receive, and thus greater access to the valuable knowledge within our prestigious library. Orion's eyes sharpened with intrigue. I understand the system is meant to boost competitiveness, but how difficult is the tower actually? Viren chuckled quietly, his eyes narrowing slightly in thought. Floors 1 through 10 are straightforward, mostly used to gauge basic combat skill and talent. But beyond that, the difficulty escalates quickly. By floor 50, echoes become extremely precise in combat, incorporating intricate elemental techniques, sophisticated tactics, and demanding precise control and decision-making. And from floor 91 onward, well, it becomes a trial of willpower and true genius. Orion's interest visibly deepened. What about floors 91 to 100? Arya mentioned the echoes there are different. Viren's expression became slightly mysterious, his voice dropping subtly. Indeed. Those echoes retain fragments of their original consciousness and personalities. They might taunt you, provoke you, or even provide cryptic insights about the Academy's history. It's a rare and enlightening experience, but also incredibly challenging. Even I couldn't pass the 91st floor. He smiled helplessly. I see, Orion responded thoughtfully, his eyes shining with excitement. Then, I look forward to seeing how far I can climb. Viren smiled approvingly, the faintest glimmer of anticipation in his usually composed demeanor. I look forward to seeing your results as well, Orion. Given your performance yesterday, I suspect your climb will surprise many. Orion smiled faintly. It shouldn't surprise them after they heard about yesterday's match. Viren lightly shook his head. A lot of them are skeptical about the match. They're guessing it was fixed or something. It'll be fun to see their faces when you shatter their expectations. He laughed happily, clearly amused at the thought of noble students being humbled. Orion looked at him speechlessly, and after exchanging a few more polite words, he finally stepped toward the grand entrance of the tower. The rune-etched double doors swung smoothly open as he approached, revealing a softly glowing corridor leading to the first level. Orion took a calming breath, feeling a subtle surge of adrenaline and excitement. He glanced at Lumi's floating window beside him. You've got this, Master. Show these echoes your incredible power. Orion chuckled quietly. Let's not underestimate them, Lumi. Even at lower levels, these are recorded prodigies. It'll be good to test my own limits properly. Stepping forward, he passed through the glowing corridor, feeling a subtle shift in the atmosphere as the doors closed gently behind him. The tower's interior was spacious yet strangely different, the walls faintly illuminated by embedded runes, and the floor beneath his feet solid and polished to perfection. A separate space for each challenger? Are they using space magic or illusion and dream magic for this? He wondered while looking around. Before him, a semi-transparent figure slowly manifested. It took the shape of a young student roughly his own age, holding a slender sword and calmly watching Orion's approach. The figure was an echo, a near-perfect replica of a once legendary student, albeit weaker than the real deal. Orion calmly drew Realm Guardian, adjusting its weight to increase until he felt comfortable holding it. The average weight of a longsword felt too light to him, as if he were holding a twig. He took a defensive stance. His gaze sharpened as the echo assumed a familiar stance, elegant yet direct, radiating confidence and poise. Master. Are you ready? O, greater than over equal to nabla less than over equal to O. Orion's eyes narrowed slightly, smiling faintly as he readied himself. Absolutely. Let's see how legendary these prodigies truly were. Saying so, he calmed his breathing and his eyes sharpened with focus as he stood facing the semi-transparent echo. Around him, the gentle illumination of runes lining the arena's walls cast soft, changing patterns of light and shadow across the polished marble floor. The faint hum of ambient mana filled the otherwise silent chamber, heightening his senses and creating an almost palpable tension in the atmosphere. The echo stood still, eerily lifelike with a disciplined stance. The spectral figure gripped a slender sword with an elegant yet clearly functional design, patiently waiting for Orion to attack first. Orion adjusted his grip on Realm Guardian, feeling the satisfying weight of the obsidian blade, heavy enough to offer resistance yet comfortable enough to wield fluidly. Alright, let's test the waters first, Orion thought calmly, his eyes locked onto his spectral opponent. He stepped forward lightly, sword raised in a casual guard stance. The echo reacted instantly, dashing forward with remarkable speed, yet clearly restrained by the limitations of a Tier 1 fighter. Clearly, it couldn't fight to its fullest potential due to Orion's limited tier. It swung its blade precisely, aiming for Orion's right side with a clean arc. Orion easily intercepted the blow, his heavier sword effortlessly parrying the strike aside. The echo didn't pause, flowing immediately into a second attack, a swift thrust aimed directly at Orion's heart. Orion pivoted smoothly, deflecting the blow once again with minimal effort. He remained deliberately passive, watching and observing carefully rather than immediately retaliating. He has good reflexes and a solid fighting style. But, it's too weak? Orion noted while analyzing. Lumi chimed in cheerfully, appearing in his peripheral vision as a faint, sparkling window. Master, this echo is way too basic. Seems like they don't have their peak combat power at the lower floors. Even Fiora could beat it blindfolded. Underscore. He smiled faintly, subtly adjusting his grip and stance, experimenting slightly. Yes, it seems to be a simple test of combat basics. Still, let's not underestimate any opponent, even if it's weak. The echo pressed onward, displaying straightforward yet precise attacks, a textbook demonstration of basic swordsmanship. Orion deliberately engaged minimally, absorbing each movement, each feint and thrust, learning its limited patterns and styles, all while lightly parrying or sidestepping effortlessly. After several exchanges, Orion concluded his observations, satisfied. With a simple shift of his sword's trajectory and a flick of his wrist, Orion decisively struck the echo's blade aside, following instantly with a slash of Realm Guardian against the echo's chest. The figure dissipated immediately, vanishing in a soft, luminescent flash. Orion calmly straightened, smiling slightly at the ease of the first victory. Well, that certainly felt basic, he murmured softly to himself as the space suddenly shifted and the tower teleported him to the next floor. He opened his eyes and looked around. Spatial magic, huh? This place is really something. These echoes are underwhelming, Master. I thought they would be better than this. Underscore. He shook his head while looking at the slowly forming echo in front of him. The creator of this place probably set it up like this. Otherwise, the new students would never be able to cross the first floor, haha. Smiling lightly, he tightened the grip on his sword and calmly looked at the second floor's echo. Hee, then I don't think any of these echoes will be able to handle you due to your physique alone. Show them who's the boss. He softly chuckled and steadied himself for the battle ahead on the second floor, adjusting his grip on Realm Guardian as the mana around him gradually settled into place. This second echo appeared slightly older, a bit taller, and more solidly built. The spectral figure stood proudly upright, holding a robust longsword with firm confidence, radiating an aura of strength and battle-honed focus. Though semi-transparent, the echo's presence was clear and imposing, subtly different from the first one. This was undoubtedly a stronger opponent, albeit still confined within Tier 1 limits. The echo abruptly charged forward, its movements precise yet aggressive. Orion calmly observed, his senses clearly tracking each strike and motion. Swiftly, the echo's blade swung downward in a powerful overhead strike, a textbook maneuver aimed at overpowering a weaker opponent. Orion barely exerted any effort, casually lifting his heavier obsidian sword to block the attack. The forceful strike echoed sharply through the chamber, but Orion's blade did not waver, utterly stable beneath the echo's assault. Unfazed, the echo swiftly transitioned, pivoting into a horizontal slash aiming for Orion's side. Again, Orion calmly deflected it, shifting his feet lightly to maintain balance. His movements were minimal yet perfectly precise, conserving energy while effortlessly controlling the flow of combat. It feels like I'm bullying the weaker students, Orion mused internally, somewhat amused by the ease of the exchange. cthnelfer.net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. His heightened physique was clearly superior. Each time their swords clashed, Orion could easily repel the echo's strikes through pure physical advantage alone. Lumi's voice cheerfully echoed in his mind, providing playful commentary as always. Master, if you keep going like this, these poor echoes might develop a trauma. Greater than over equal to less than over equal to. Orion chuckled quietly, effortlessly parrying another swift thrust. Haha, Lumi, I doubt these mana-generated echoes have feelings. But you're right, this isn't challenging at all. Deciding he had seen enough, Orion swiftly stepped forward, smoothly dodging another strike and slicing his blade against the echo's neck. The echo dissipated instantly, vanishing silently into shimmering mana fragments. I think there's another reason these echoes seem so weak, he said thoughtfully while feeling the space surrounding him blur. What's that, master? My tear. These echoes can't exert their full strength because of it. I've only fought 2 warriors so far, but they weren't even at the peak of the first level of their physique. I'm sure if they were at a higher level, they'd have a lot more means to fight against me. Hee, isn't this just nice then? We finna reach the peak. Before he could reply, he was teleported seamlessly upward once more. Each subsequent floor offered new opponents with distinct styles, some wielding twin daggers and attacking rapidly, others heavily armored with large shields, focusing on defense and counterattacks. While some were pure mages attacking with nothing but elemental attacks, they couldn't even hurt Orion due to their limited powers. Each echo showcased unique strengths and varied strategies, but Orion's advantage in raw physique and the decent swordsmanship he had learned allowed him to dispatch them swiftly and efficiently. By the time he reached the 10th floor, Orion felt oddly unsatisfied. He had easily defeated each echo so far, gaining little insight from the increasingly one-sided battles. This is practically free RP, but I should try something new, he thought inwardly. As the 10th floor echo materialized, this time a lean young fighter wielding a flexible saber, Orion paused thoughtfully, storing Realm Guardian into his spatial ring. With a flick of his wrist, he summoned the sleek, menacing black dragon spear into his hand. Its polished obsidian shaft shimmered faintly under the tower's magical illumination, the dragon-shaped spearhead radiating a subtle, primal ferocity. Feeling the spear's weight in his hand, Orion quickly adjusted it with his will, reducing it to match that of a regular spear. Since these echoes are manageable at my current strength, this is the perfect chance to practice my spear technique, he reasoned thoughtfully. That's brilliant, master. Practicing a new weapon here is smart, especially since your spear technique, well, it's kind of non-existent at the moment. Orion smiled wryly, spinning the spear experimentally in his grip, testing its balance. I suppose you're right, Lumi. Let's see if this echo can teach me anything new. The 10th echo swiftly lunged forward, its saber slicing deftly through the air. Orion reacted instinctively, attempting a straightforward thrust with the spear. His movement was amateurish, stiff, and clearly untrained, easily dodged by the experienced echo. Frustration briefly flickered within Orion, but he quickly adapted, shifting his feet to regain his balance. Each subsequent attempt to strike was similarly clumsy, his unfamiliarity with the spear evident. Still, Orion persisted, using his superior physique and reflexes to compensate for his technical shortcomings, occasionally overpowering the echo through sheer physical dominance alone. Spears rely heavily on thrusts and precise control of range, Orion analyzed mentally as he practiced. But I'm wielding it more like a heavy stick than a proper spear. I need finer control, less brute force. In a moment of slight distraction, he accidentally applied too much power, thrusting forward strongly enough that his spear effortlessly pierced the echo, dispersing it instantly into shimmering motes of mana. Orion sighed lightly, slightly annoyed by his own mistake. That wasn't intentional. Ah, don't worry, master. You'll control it better next time. Well, I do need to learn to control better. But that should be relatively easy. The hard part is becoming proficient enough to fight others. He teleported to the next floor while saying it. Here, the next echo formed swiftly, but this time it wore robes rather than armor, clearly a mage. Orion sighed, recognizing this echo wouldn't provide meaningful spear practice. Saw the novelfire.net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. The mage echo rapidly chanted before casting spells, unleashing bolts of condensed elemental mana. Orion deftly dodged the barrage, quickly closing the gap and dispatching it easily with a swift spear thrust, wasting no further time. He continued ascending steadily, swiftly dispatching the next few floors' echoes, each presenting different combat styles, some mixed melee with minor spells, others relied on traps or agile movement. Yet none offered substantial training with the spear, merely serving as brief diversions before falling beneath Orion's overpowering might. Finally, Orion ascended calmly onto the 16th floor, anticipation building as he noted a significant shift in the echo's appearance. This echo was tall, clearly athletic, and firmly held a spear, much like Orion's own. The figure's stance radiated confidence as he seemed to be a master spearman. Orion's excitement visibly heightened, his grip on the black dragon spear firm but controlled. Perfect. Finally, an opponent from whom I can learn proper spear technique, he murmured appreciatively. The echo lunged forward decisively, its spear thrust smooth and precisely controlled. Orion instinctively raised his spear to parry but quickly found himself struggling against the echo's expert maneuvering and deft footwork. This opponent demonstrated clearly superior spear techniques, efficient thrusts, controlled sweeps, and deceptive feints. Each attack flowed seamlessly into the next, pressuring Orion intensely. Now this is real spear mastery, Orion acknowledged inwardly, barely deflecting a precise thrust aimed toward his chest. His movements felt sluggish and unrefined by comparison, highlighting his inexperience clearly. Yet Orion felt no frustration, only determination and excitement burning fiercely within. He began observing and mimicking the echo's movements carefully, slowly adjusting his grip, stance, and timing. Each exchange became increasingly educational, with Orion gradually absorbing subtle nuances of spearmanship, the precise foot placement, the smooth flow of energy from waist to shoulder, and the careful rhythm needed for effective spear thrusts. The echo maintained relentless pressure, each strike sharp and demanding absolute precision from Orion. Sweat gently glistened on his forehead, his breathing steady yet clearly heavier from the focused exertion. Lumi chimed supportively, her usual playful tone momentarily serious. "You're learning fast, Master. Watch how the echo transitions between thrusts, it never loses momentum." Orion nodded slightly, eyes locked onto his spectral opponent. "You're right, Lumi. Its attacks never stall or hesitate, it continues to attack like a flowing river." Focusing intensely, Orion began implementing these insights, his spear movements becoming slightly smoother, less wasteful, and more deliberate. Though still imperfect, he gradually improved with each fierce exchange, slowly internalizing the echo's refined spear art. Yet, aware he was spending too long here, Orion finally decided to push forward decisively. Finding an opening in the echo's rhythm, he changed the weight of the spear and applied slightly more force, delivering a swift, powerful thrust that pierced the echo's defenses, instantly dissolving it. He paused momentarily afterward, breathing heavily yet feeling deeply satisfied. That was truly exciting. Spear combat requires more finesse and precision than I initially realized. You did amazingly, Master. Your spear skills improved significantly in just one fight. Greater than over equal to less than over equal to. He chuckled lightly, nodding his head. Yes, but enough time wasted here. I should now try to reach as high as I can. I have other places I need to be as well, after all. The spatial power came back to transport him as he began heading to the next floor. As Orion appeared on the 17th floor, he put away his spear and took out the Realm Guardian again. His heart still thrummed slightly faster from the previous spear battle, excitement lingering. Before him, a new echo emerged, this one a slender fighter wielding dual short swords. The echo's posture indicated agility and rapid attacks, a stark contrast to the disciplined spearman Orion just faced. It sprang forward immediately, blades weaving swiftly in a series of rapid, fluid strikes. Orion calmly adjusted his footing, smoothly deflecting the first flurry of blows. He noted the echo's swift movements, designed clearly to overwhelm opponents through sheer speed. Yet Orion's enhanced physique and reflexes allowed him to maintain perfect composure, his sword movements minimalistic yet effective. After exchanging several blows, Orion quickly gauged the echo's patterns and tendencies. Its attacks were swift but lacked versatility, repeating similar sequences. Recognizing the repetition, Orion capitalized immediately, sidestepping a predictable thrust before smoothly slicing upward, dispersing the echo instantly in a soft shimmer of mana. Chapter 166, Learning to Use Spells and Sword Plus, Turn-Off Reset. Quick and agile, but predictable, Orion mentally assessed as the room blurred again, transporting him upward to the 18th floor. The next 2 floors introduced varied echoes, a heavily armored defender wielding a tower shield and mace, and a flexible swordsman combining martial arts with blade techniques. Both offered interesting combat styles that briefly challenged Orion's versatility. Yet neither lasted long under his careful precision, superior strength, and growing familiarity with diverse fighting styles. Stepping onto the 20th floor, Orion exhaled deeply, taking a momentary pause. He now felt confident in his foundational swordsmanship and spear practice. But there was one thing he had yet to try fully, his newly mastered fire spells. Time to combine swordsmanship with magic properly, Orion thought decisively. He extended his palm gently, summoning a familiar warmth that quickly condensed into a blazing sphere of fire. "Fireball," he whispered calmly, launching the blazing orb toward the echo forming in front of him. The echo, a muscular fighter with heavy gauntlets, reacted instantly, sidestepping the initial attack. Orion smiled slightly, pleased at the reflexes of the echo. He darted forward swiftly, leaving behind glowing embers with each step, activating his spell as he lightly called out, "Cinder Trail." The fiery footprints immediately ignited the floor beneath, forcing the echo into a defensive position, wary of stepping onto the burning trail. Good, zone control works perfectly, Orion thought approvingly. The echo, pressured by limited mobility, lunged forward aggressively to close the gap. Orion responded quickly, his left hand igniting fiercely with searing touch. He smoothly blocked the incoming strike with Realm Guardian while simultaneously pressing his blazing palm against the echo's chest, the searing heat bursting forth upon contact. Instantly, the echo vanished, dissipating in shimmering mana fragments. "Damn, I'm impressive. I didn't expect to be able to seamlessly fight with spells and weapons so quickly," Orion thought to himself with a mock-serious expression. Master, when did you become a narcissist?" "I'm just stating the truth," he said with a chuckle as he teleported to the next floor. On the 21st floor, Orion faced a more cautious echo, this one holding a curved longsword, clearly a duelist specializing in precise and swift attacks. Orion opted to test another spell here, focusing intently as he extended his palm again. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. "Flame dart," Orion murmured, launching the swift, arrow-like projectile at his opponent. The echo skillfully parried the first flame dart, but Orion seamlessly chained multiple castings, each dart progressively faster and more accurate. Pressured by the relentless barrage, the echo momentarily faltered, providing an opening. Orion seized the moment, swiftly closing the gap and delivering a precise thrust with Realm Guardian. The echo vanished, yielding to Orion's overwhelming assault. Floor after floor, Orion smoothly integrated his spells into combat, fireball disrupting enemy stances, flame dart harassing distant opponents, searing touch delivering decisive melee blows, and cinder trail effectively controlling enemy movement. On the 24th floor, a mage echo summoned defensive barriers to stall Orion's approach. Yet Orion adeptly shattered these magical shields with rapid flame darts before finishing decisively with a powerful fireball. Reaching the 25th floor, Orion paused momentarily, breathing steadily but heavily from the continuous exertion. His gaze remained sharp, eyes bright with determination. Lumi's cheerful voice echoed proudly, full of excitement. "Amazing, Master. Your fighting style is getting incredibly refined now that you're blending magic with swordsmanship. At this rate, you'll dominate this tower easily." Star. Orion chuckled quietly, "And then you wonder how I'm becoming a narcissist? But let's not get ahead of ourselves, I don't think I can dominate this tower this easily." Reaching the 26th floor, Orion continued his relentless ascent, the Tower of Myths growing progressively challenging with each step higher. The echoes that Orion faced became more formidable, no longer mere shadows of former geniuses but now skilled, versatile warriors who presented genuine threats and valuable learning opportunities. Orion's eyes were excited yet thoughtful, his expression calm yet filled with fiery resolve. On the 29th floor, Orion faced an echo-wielding twin curved daggers whose figure blurred periodically, hinting at an affinity with shadow and illusion. The echo danced around Orion, its presence shimmering unpredictably, striking swiftly before vanishing into shadowy afterimages. Orion calmly assessed the situation, calling forth multiple flame darts in rapid succession. Bright flames streaked across the chamber, forcing the echo to dodge rather than counterattack. Orion then surged forward, leaving a blazing trail of embers with cinder trail, carefully reducing the echo's evasive routes. When the echo inevitably faltered, Orion decisively finished it with a precise slash of Realm Guardian. Annoying opponent, Orion muttered inwardly, taking a deep breath as he steadied his racing pulse. But useful practice for foes adept at stealth and illusions. Good thinking, Master. You're becoming very adaptable. He smiled briefly, teleporting upward once more. Floors passed quickly yet gruelingly, 35, 38, 42, each fight testing Orion's refined balance between physical combat and spellcasting. Sweat streaked gently down his brow, his muscles tingling from exertion. Still, his determination remained unwavering. On the 45th floor, Orion faced an echo wielding a long, chain-linked whip with spiked ends, coupled with elemental lightning enchantments. Each crackling strike sent arcs of electricity rippling across the polished stone floor, forcing Orion to dodge precisely to avoid debilitating shocks. Forced onto the defensive, Orion observed intently, analyzing his opponent's rhythmic attacks. Seizing a brief opening, he hurled a rapid series of flame darts, breaking the echo's rhythm before following immediately with a powerful fireball that exploded brilliantly on impact, decisively vanquishing his opponent. Breathing heavily yet steadying himself again, Orion ascended floor after floor, his reflexes and tactical instincts continuously sharpening. Each subsequent echo seemed to draw upon increasingly elaborate techniques, elemental manipulation, advanced martial arts, illusionary feints, gradually pushing Orion to the edge of his capability. Finally, Orion reached the 50th floor. A profound stillness filled the arena as the echo before him began forming slowly, its presence distinctly more intimidating than any prior opponent. The figure solidified into a tall, muscular warrior clad in streamlined armor, wielding an elegantly forged longsword. Its gaze, though spectral, radiated with battle-hardened intensity. Orion instinctively understood the gravity of this fight, a clear dividing point within the tower. The echo sword flashed forward suddenly, its movement shockingly swift, forcing Orion to instantly react. Blades clashed sharply, echoing fiercely through the chamber. Orion felt a distinct tremor through his sword arm, immediately aware that the echo's physique surpassed his own. This is different, Orion thought grimly, rapidly adjusting his stance. It's physically stronger than me, and its footwork is far superior, so its sword techniques should be as well. Their swords danced, clashing and slicing through the air with graceful yet deadly precision. Orion's muscles strained visibly beneath his exertions, every movement requiring absolute concentration to avoid a one-hit defeat. Yet despite Orion's careful defenses and calculated counterattacks, the echo's swordsmanship effortlessly began suppressing him. Orion summoned several flame darts in quick succession, attempting to disrupt the echo's overwhelming offensive rhythm. The echo skillfully evaded or deflected each projectile, calmly continuing its relentless advance. Determined to shift momentum, Orion ignited his palm with searing touch and lunged decisively, hoping to land a powerful blow. Yet the echo smoothly sidestepped Orion's strike, its sword slicing dangerously close to Orion's shoulder, narrowly missing as he twisted at the last second to avoid injury. Damn it, I'm being overwhelmed. Orion's frustration surged briefly as he leapt back, barely evading another deadly slash as he considered increasing his sword's weight. Chapter 167, Absolute Suppression. Determined to gain the upper hand, Orion steadied himself once more, focusing his full attention on the formidable echo before him. The increased density of mana within the arena heightened his senses, the calm lighting casting sharp reflections off the echo's polished armor and blade. He tightened his grip on Realm Guardian, the obsidian longsword balanced perfectly but feeling oddly inadequate for the first time. The echo lunged again, closing distance with blinding speed. Orion pivoted smoothly, raising his sword defensively just in time. Their blades collided fiercely, the metallic clash reverberating sharply through the chamber. Yet Orion immediately felt the impact radiating painfully through his wrist and arm, evidence of his opponent's superior physical strength. Recovering swiftly, Orion stepped backward, his eyes locked sharply onto the echo's precise movements, carefully analyzing its impeccable footwork. The echo's stance was flawless, perfectly balanced yet flexible enough to adapt instantly to any threat. Each attack flowed directly into the next, devoid of wasted motion, constantly pressuring Orion into reactive defense. Holy hell, this thing's attacks are so precise, Orion thought to himself while dodging constantly. Alright, let's focus and see his attacks. He's methodically trying to suppress me with each attack, striking my weak points to push me off balance and control my rhythm, Orion observed carefully, recognizing the underlying mastery behind the echo's movements. Each exchange pushed him further, forcing him to draw deeply upon everything he'd learned thus far, yet, frustratingly, he still found himself slowly losing ground. The echo advanced like a top-tier warrior forged through battle, its sword flashing in elegant arcs and precise thrusts. Orion summoned another volley of flame darts, his hand flickering with fiery power. A rapid succession of projectiles streaked toward the echo, each dart meticulously aimed to disrupt its relentless rhythm. Yet the echo effortlessly shifted its weight, sidestepping most of the darts and deflecting the remainder with minimal effort. It countered instantly, lunging sharply forward with a precise thrust aimed directly at Orion's heart. Instinctively, Orion twisted aside, narrowly avoiding the deadly blow. Sweat streamed freely down his face, breath coming in heavy pants as he felt his stamina steadily draining. He summoned another burst of power, whispering sharply, "Fireball." The spell materialized rapidly, flaring brightly before launching toward the echo in a fierce blaze. But again, the echo demonstrated supreme skill. It swiftly rolled beneath the incoming projectile, its armor barely singed, before springing upward to resume its unrelenting assault. Orion's frustration rose sharply, but he held it in check, forcing himself to remain composed, continuing to carefully analyze every movement the echo made. "Its swordsmanship is leagues above mine," Orion grimly acknowledged, deflecting another powerful slash aimed at his side. He desperately searched for weaknesses, openings, anything to exploit. Yet the echo's stance remained flawless, its guard never faltering for a moment. In the next exchange, Orion ignited his palm with searing touch, driving forward aggressively, hoping to land even a grazing blow. But the echo calmly read his intentions, smoothly sidestepping and retaliating with frightening precision. Its blade sliced forward with uncanny accuracy, grazing Orion's shoulder, leaving behind a sharp, burning sensation. Orion winced slightly, feeling the skin break and hot blood trickling down his arm. The echo pressed the advantage, launching a rapid flurry of strikes, each more aggressive and precise than before. Orion struggled to parry, his defenses increasingly shaky beneath the relentless onslaught. "Master, you're starting to fall behind, please be careful. Just use your true instincts." Lumi's anxious voice echoed urgently within his mind. "I know," Orion replied grimly, struggling to maintain his footing. "But I'm still not at the point where I need to rely on my dragon instinct. His swordsmanship may very well be leagues above my own, but I still have 3 more cards I can play. Well, only one technically. Dragon instinct and dragon's might?" His face formed an excited smile. "Yes. I haven't gotten a chance to go all out since I arrived in this world. This is what my blood needs." Feeling his blood boil at the chance of tasting his first defeat, Orion decisively channeled his mana into Realm Guardian, increasing the sword's weight significantly. The obsidian blade felt suddenly immense, its density multiplying sharply until it radiated a palpable, oppressive aura. Orion swung forcefully, hoping to overpower the echo's careful defense through sheer brute strength. Yet the echo, sensing immediate danger, instantly adjusted. Its reactions were impeccable, dodging Orion's heavy slashes smoothly, weaving deftly around each powerful strike. Follow new episodes on the N0vel1st.c0m. How does it know? Orion wondered in growing frustration, his arms trembling slightly from exertion. The heavy sword strikes that once seemed invincible now felt cumbersome and easily avoided. He continued to press with all his might, hoping to land even one decisive blow, yet each attempt proved futile, the echo skillfully evading without fail. Sensing Orion's mounting fatigue, the echo smoothly transitioned from evasive maneuvers into aggressive counterattacks. It darted forward suddenly, its blade flashing in rapid thrusts and precise slices, each strike aimed to exploit Orion's faltering defense. Orion struggled desperately to maintain balance, forced entirely onto the defensive. His sword parries became increasingly rushed and imperfect, gaps emerging clearly in his guard. Sweat blurred his vision slightly, his breathing labored, muscles straining beneath the relentless pressure due to the combined fatigue of the previous 49 floors and this hard battle. He summoned another fireball, the blazing orb materializing rapidly, launching at close range. Yet the echo anticipated this, sidestepping effortlessly and continuing its brutal advance without pause. Orion narrowly avoided another deadly strike, feeling his heart pounding fiercely. "Master! It's overwhelming you, please, think quickly." "I know, Lumi." Orion shouted sharply, frustration bubbling to the surface. His grip tightened fiercely around Realm Guardian, slowly rising anger fueling his next attempt. He summoned Cinder Trail again, fiery embers bursting into flame beneath his swift movements. Yet the echo calmly avoided the hazardous ground, maintaining perfect composure. Orion's frustration surged, his eyes narrowing sharply, determination mixing fiercely with anger. Why can't I land a single hit?" Orion growled fiercely, his voice strained. Anger flashed briefly within him, dangerously close to breaking his careful composure. SAR the novel, F.ir.at website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. The echo lunged forward again, sword slicing sharply. Orion instinctively blocked, muscles trembling from the heavy impact. His heart thundered fiercely, blood roaring within his ears. The echo pressed relentlessly, each strike calculated and precise, driving Orion steadily backward, utterly suppressing him. With mounting frustration, Orion's instincts surged powerfully. Deep within, he felt the dormant dragon sense stir fiercely, dangerously close to activation. His eyes sharpened suddenly, senses expanding exponentially, reflexes heightening dramatically. Just as Orion prepared to release this latent instinct, his mind sharpened by desperation, the echo abruptly halted, sensing an immediate threat. Before Orion could fully activate the dragon sense, the echo swiftly moved, its blade slicing toward Orion's exposed neck with lethal accuracy. Time stretched strangely in Orion's heightened perception. His body reacted instinctively, twisting sharply aside to evade the potentially fatal blow. His reaction speed surged dramatically, surpassing his normal limits. Yet even as Orion's instincts moved him, the echo sword was already mere inches from his neck, its edge dangerously close, unavoidable, and decisive. The image of two thrones flashed briefly before his eyes. However, suddenly, bright runes throughout the chamber flared sharply, sensing the inevitable outcome. Chapter 168, Viren's Bet. Space distorted sharply around Orion, the teleportation rune activating immediately, whisking him instantaneously away. A heartbeat later, Orion stood abruptly outside the Tower of Myths, his breathing ragged, body trembling slightly from residual adrenaline as blood dripped down from his arm. Sweat drenched his forehead, trickling freely down his flushed face. His heart still raced fiercely, the echo's final strike burned vividly into his mind together with the image of two distinct thrones. "Ha ha ha, I won. See? I told you he would reach the 50th floor, now cough up the duskwater wine you bet with me." Instructor Viren's joyful voice echoed from the side. Orion turned his head to see Instructor Viren taking a jar of wine from an angry-looking instructor, who turned his head and looked at Orion before nodding and leaving. Viren approached calmly with a big smile on his face. "Ha ha ha, I didn't judge you wrongly, Orion Hellstorm. Well done indeed." He didn't concern himself with Orion's bleeding hand, as such minor injuries were all too common for them. Orion, on the other hand, was breathing roughly as he felt his body aching from pain all over, his instincts going crazy as he felt intense frustration. Taking a few deep breaths, he closed his eyes and tried to calm himself. After a few seconds, he opened his eyes and looked at Viren. "What, did you bet?" he tiredly asked. Viren smugly smiled and showed him a jar of wine. "I bet on you stopping precisely at the 50th floor. And the bet was for this." "Haha, I was eyeing this duskwater wine for so long, but that stingy instructor Alariel was hiding it from me for years." "But you helped me with this." Orion's lips twitched. Taking out a healing potion from his storage ring, he emptied it at once. Taking a deep breath, he straightened up. "How, did you know I would reach the 50th floor or get defeated there?" Putting the jar in his storage ring with a smile, Viren slowly explained, "Because he was the perfect counter for the current you." "Huh?" He smiled and patiently explained, "The 50th floor is a decisive boundary, Orion. The echo from that point has near-perfect battle instinct from their original self. And especially that echo, in his time, he was one of the greatest swordsmen. It's a shame he left too early, otherwise his echo might have been at the higher end of floors." Orion's eyes flashed with understanding. "I see. No wonder he was that skilled, but his physical strength." Viren nodded in understanding. "It's no wonder you would think that. Actually, he was born with unmatched physical power. His body was even comparable to the Titans back then, or so I heard." He took a deep breath and nodded. "I see. Thanks for clarifying my doubts, Instructor Viren. So, how did I perform? Was it good?" Sar the novelfire.net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Viren smiled strangely. "Good? You just set a new record. I don't think anyone has managed to reach the 50th floor on their first attempt here." Orion tilted his head in confusion. "How? Didn't you say he was one of the strongest at his level? He didn't manage to reach so high?" Viren shrugged his shoulders. "You think everyone has as monstrous amount of stamina as you? You've been fighting in there for over 6 hours straight without breaks. I'm honestly surprised. I only bet that because of my gut feeling and the match I witnessed that day between you and Sylvia." Orion's eyes widened as he looked toward the sky. The sun had begun to go down, and he had entered the tower pretty early in the morning. Lightly shaking his head, he asked, "Then how many points will I get? And what's my current rank?" Viren chuckled, "Since it was your first time clearing the floors, you'll get the points that your rank should get. You are currently ranked 141 out of nearly 500 students. That's 1,000 ranking points." Orion looked at him with slightly widened eyes. "Huh? Only 500 students in such a massive academy? And I'm already ranked so high?" Haha, Viren laughed out loud seeing his expression. "What do you take this academy for? We only take the best of the best. In your batch, we have 300 students. The second-year batch has around 150 students, the third-year batch has around 50 students, and the final batch only has 10 students. Now you understand how impressive you are?" Orion stood quietly for a moment, processing Instructor Viren's words as the cool breeze of the approaching evening gently rustled the leaves of nearby trees, sending a calm whisper through the academy grounds. The sun, now partially hidden behind distant clouds, bathed everything in a soft amber hue. He took a deep breath, savoring the fresh air as the potion's warmth slowly spread through his body, soothing the lingering aches and pains. Viren watched Orion curiously, sensing his lingering disbelief and mild confusion. Chuckling softly, he patted Orion's shoulder encouragingly. "Surprised? I suppose someone as talented as you would naturally underestimate the difficulty others face. But trust me, very few students possess your stamina, mana reserves, and determination. Most would have collapsed after 5 or 10 floors." Orion nodded thoughtfully, a faint smile curving his lips. "I never really considered that. I just kept pushing upward. To think that climbing to the 50th floor actually broke some record, it's genuinely surprising." "Like hell it is, you knew and expected this already. Since when did you become humble?" Ring in equal to _ring in equal to. Follow new episodes on the N0vel1st.c0m. Shoo, gotta stay humble in front of these old monsters. I can never tell if one of them is an ancestor here. Viren laughed again, his voice rich with amusement. Haha, lad, it's more than just surprising. Your progress will undoubtedly stir the Academy's competitive spirit. Mark my words, many students will be eager to challenge the tower again after hearing of your accomplishment. Orion tilted his head slightly, curiosity flickering in his eyes. Isn't that exactly what the Academy wants? Viren's smile broadened, his eyes sparkling knowingly. Precisely, Orion. This is exactly the kind of healthy competition the Tower of Myths is meant to foster. The stronger your peers grow, the stronger you become in return. Remember, every rival you gain is also a potential teacher. Orion nodded solemnly, understanding deepening within him. I'll keep that in mind, Instructor Viren. But, just curious, who currently holds the first rank? Viren's expression softened slightly, turning contemplative. Currently, the top-ranked student is a final year named Valerius Kane, a commoner. He's maintained his position for over 2 years, having cleared the 93rd floor, a truly monstrous talent. But he rarely participates openly anymore, since his graduation approaches, and he's already been scouted by several powerful noble houses. 93rd floor, Orion murmured thoughtfully, eyes gleaming with newfound determination. That seems impossibly distant for now. Damn, Master, you can actually act this well? Why did I never know about this hidden talent of yours? Orion decided to just ignore Lumi's commentary for now and focus on Viren. Indeed, Viren chuckled, lightly patting Orion's shoulder again. But given your monstrous growth, who knows? Perhaps you'll threaten even Valerius's record before the year ends. Orion laughed gently, shaking his head at Viren's words. Now, who's the one overestimating me? Chapter 169, Club Gather. Viren simply shrugged, smiling broadly. Only time will tell, young Hellstorm. Either way, congratulations again. Take today's lesson deeply to heart. Reflect upon it and use it as a foundation for future progress. I will, Orion replied earnestly, bowing his head slightly in gratitude. Thank you, Instructor. With their conversation concluded, Orion turned away, his body feeling lighter now despite the exhaustion from the battles. The soft breeze carried away the last of his tension as he began wandering slowly through the Academy's pristine pathways, taking in the gentle beauty of the evening scenery. The sprawling gardens and carefully maintained park areas around the Academy provided a soothing contrast to the intensity of his recent battles. Flowers of vibrant color swayed gently, their fragrance mingling pleasantly with the cooling air. Students passed by him occasionally, casting curious glances in his direction, already whispering quietly among themselves, likely about his recent tower attempt as his name was refreshed on the ranking board. Orion didn't pay them much mind, absorbed instead by his own reflections. He considered every battle he had fought, every echo he'd faced, especially the one that had decisively halted his climb. That last fight had left an especially vivid impression upon him, pushing his limits to the edge and beyond. How does your first defeat taste, Master? Quite bitter, to be honest. All these questions in my head, would I have won if I had used Dragon Instinct? Would I have won if I had used Dragon's Might? Would I have been hurt if I had more experience? Is making me feel bitter and bitter. You tried your best, Master. That place is for training as well. If you only rely on your Dragon Instinct, then you won't be able to truly learn your basics. That's why I'm treating it like my trump card, since I get boosts on my base stats, so it doesn't matter if I train with it or without it. But I at least learned more about the sword and spear. I also got better at utilizing my weapons with spells. Yes. And that's the most important thing, Master. You just need to keep improving. What will these tiny geniuses even do when you reach your peak? But Master, wasn't the echo at the 50th floor too strong? How did the other students even cross him? Orion rubbed his chin while walking through the paved pathway and looking at the students. If I have to guess, then he isn't as experienced as I thought. It just seemed like that due to my own amateur ass. And he shouldn't be that hard to deal with for higher tier mages who have more powerful spells than warriors. After all, warriors have a much larger advantage at the starting levels. That last attack was really close. I felt my life flash before my eyes. Orion paused for a second before resuming his pace. Flash, huh? The two thrones flashed in front of my eyes just then, he softly said. Huh? You mean the thrones from that dream of yours? Orion slightly nodded his head. Well, I only saw them for a split second and nothing else. Anyways, it doesn't matter since we have little to no information about them. CTH novel, F. ir.nt website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. The two of them continued to chat as before long. His quiet wanderings brought him back toward the familiar central garden, the usual gathering spot of Arya, Emilia, and him. From afar, he noticed a small group of figures standing together beneath a wide, graceful cherry blossom tree, deep in animated conversation. Arya was gesturing energetically, laughing brightly, while Emilia stood calmly by her side, listening attentively with her characteristic gentle smile. Nearby, Sylvia leaned casually against the tree, arms crossed loosely, a subtle smile of amusement on her lips. NYSS, Elias, Philyra, and Kale were also there, each engrossed in the lively discussion. As Orion approached, Arya spotted him first, her amethyst eyes immediately brightening. Her face broke into a warm, radiant smile as she waved enthusiastically. Brother Orion, over here. The group immediately turned their attention toward him, their expressions shifting swiftly from curiosity to excitement and admiration. Elias's usually calm demeanor cracked into an excited smile. NYSS looked at Orion with an interested gaze, clearly having heard about the tower, while Philyra smiled in greeting. Kale simply nodded respectfully, his usually calm gaze lit up with respect as he looked at him. Orion smiled faintly, seeing the group gathered together for the first time. Seems like everyone finally managed to gather here. Elias was the first one to step forward and laughed out loud. Haha, you already made our club famous, Orion. We didn't expect you to create such a commotion to celebrate the official formation of our club. Orion chuckled in amusement. What are you even talking about? I did no such thing. I was only short on RP, so I went ahead to gain some. Follow new episodes on the N0vel1st.c0m. Elias chuckled, shaking his head slightly in disbelief. Oh, please, Orion. Short on RP? You cleared 50 floors in a single attempt. Everyone on campus is going crazy about it. Arya's bright eyes sparkled with excitement as she chimed in, nodding eagerly. Exactly. I could barely walk around the library earlier without overhearing your name being whispered everywhere. Even the senior students were curious about you. Sylvia leaned forward slightly, her playful smirk revealing genuine amusement. I even saw Instructor Alariel looking unusually interested in the rankings today. You really shook things up. Well, that's a given. Poor guy lost his dear wine. Greater than over equal to less than over equal to. Orion rubbed the back of his head, a wry smile spreading across his lips. I honestly didn't intend to cause such a stir. The tower just seemed like a practical way to earn RP. I had no idea it would become such a big deal. Philyra laughed softly, eyes twinkling mischievously. Only someone as absurdly talented as you would say something like that, Orion. Most students would consider even 3 to 5 floors impressive for a first run. But 50? That's basically unheard of. NYSS's lips curled into a slight smile. I think it's wonderful. You've given everyone a new standard to aim for. Now all the students will be training twice as hard to catch up. Kale nodded solemnly, his expression filled with approval. Indeed. You have elevated not only your own status but the reputation of everyone here. I am proud to be associated with someone of your caliber. Orion felt warmth rise within him, appreciating his friend's genuine praise. He waved his hand gently, still feeling slightly embarrassed by the overwhelming attention. All right, enough praise. I appreciate all your enthusiasm, but remember, we gathered here for a different reason today. Sylvia tilted her head curiously, an amused glint in her eyes. Oh? You've got something else planned? Arya nodded eagerly, clearly already aware of Orion's intentions. Brother Orion said he'd announce the official club name today. Elias raised an eyebrow, his gaze thoughtful yet intrigued. That's right, you mentioned something about finally naming our club. I've been curious all day. Are you finally going to tell us? Orion smiled faintly, his gaze shifting around the gathered group, each face watching him expectantly. He took a moment to savor the suspense, enjoying the building anticipation reflected in their eyes. NYSS, growing impatient, said bluntly, "Come on, Orion. Out with it already. We've waited long enough." Chapter 170, Name. Chuckling softly, Orion raised his hand calmly, requesting their patience. All right, everyone. After giving it a lot of thought, and considering the ambitions and purpose of our group, I finally settled on a name that represents our goals. He paused, allowing the suspense to thicken slightly, enjoying the playful impatience clearly visible on their faces. And? Sylvia prompted gently, eyes narrowed in amused suspicion. Orion smiled slightly wider, his hand drifting toward the hilt of Realm Guardian at his waist, patting it gently as he revealed clearly, "Our club shall be named Realm Explorers." The group fell briefly silent, processing the name. Arya broke the quiet first, giggling softly, her expression both amused and delighted. Realm Explorers, I actually like it. It has a certain charm to it. Search the novel, FIR.net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Amelia softly chuckled as well, nodding approvingly. It's simple but fitting. We're planning to explore ruins and hidden realms eventually. It's very appropriate. Sylvia let out a short laugh, shaking her head in mild disbelief. It certainly has your style written all over it, Orion. Simple yet bold. NYSS's face cracked into an amused smile. It does have a nice adventurous ring to it, I suppose. But why do I feel like you just named it after your sword? Orion shrugged playfully, a small smirk on his lips. Maybe a little inspiration came from it. But mostly, I wanted something straightforward, something that clearly reflects our purpose. Elias crossed his arms thoughtfully, raising a brow skeptically. Really, Orion? Realm Explorers? You couldn't come up with anything better? Orion chuckled lightly, giving Elias a playful glare. Oh? Do you have any better ideas then, Elias? Elias frowned slightly, visibly brainstorming for a moment. What about something grander, like Seekers of the Unknown or Myth Hunters? Arya giggled, shaking her head slightly. Those are a bit dramatic, Elias. Sylvia added teasingly, eyes sparkling with amusement, yes, a bit too grand. We're explorers, not characters from some epic tale. Kale interjected thoughtfully, nodding his head slightly. I agree. Realm Explorers is succinct and clearly represents our intentions. Simple names often carry the greatest clarity. Thalira nodded her head with a giggle. I kind of liked the Myth Hunters, but sadly our group will focus on exploring rather than hunting. Arya smiled lightly, looking at Elias with a playful smile. Looks like you're outnumbered, Elias. Elias sighed dramatically, though a small smile betrayed his resignation. Fine, fine. It seems my dramatic flair isn't appreciated here. Orion grinned warmly, clasping Elias's shoulder companionably. Don't worry, Elias. Your flair for the dramatic will surely find other ways to express itself. But for our club, Realm Explorers feels just right. Finally, Elias nodded, smiling slightly as he conceded. All right then, Realm Explorers it is. You're right, it does grow on you. Orion nodded, looking around warmly at his friends. With that settled, let's briefly discuss what's next. First, we should all continue training diligently. We still need to see what Beistein Hargan will throw at us after this test finishes. Elias lightly coughed and said with a slightly embarrassed voice, I still need to finish the current test. Orion lightly smiled. Don't worry, there is plenty of time left, you can definitely do it. Yes, just focus on forming your affinity rune for now. Arya nodded in agreement. The rest echoed the same as they motivated him. Sylvia's voice was calm but firm as she added, perhaps we should also practice together, sparring and exchanging insights. It'll help us all progress faster. Exactly my thoughts, Orion agreed firmly, his gaze steady and confident. Sparring together regularly will benefit everyone. We can learn from each other's techniques and weaknesses, pushing one another to new heights. Arya's eyes brightened excitedly. That sounds perfect. It'll also bring us closer as a team. Kale nodded solemnly, his voice calm yet resolute. Agreed. Building mutual trust and understanding will be vital to our future when we explore unknown places. NYSS smiled lightly, looking at everyone present. I wonder how many of you can fight against me. Follow new episodes on the N0vel1st.c0m. Orion chuckled, don't worry, if nothing else, half of us can give you a good fight. And then it's decided. Train diligently, spar regularly, and Elias, finish the upcoming test. Once Vicedine Hargan gives us our second test, we'll discuss our next steps as realm explorers. The group nodded enthusiastically, spirits clearly lifted by Orion's confidence and clear leadership. Around them, the evening had already arrived, making the sky slowly darker. Thalira glanced up, startled slightly by how late it had gotten. We should probably disperse now, it's already quite late. We only stayed out here this long because we wanted to hear the announcement directly from Orion. Sylvia chuckled softly, stretching her arms leisurely. Agreed. Let's head back for now, and tomorrow we'll begin training in earnest. Orion smiled warmly, watching as his friends began dispersing slowly, their cheerful voices and laughter echoing softly through the quieting gardens. Before leaving, Arya paused briefly beside Orion, looking up with bright eyes filled with happiness. Thank you, Brother Orion. Today was wonderful, Arya said softly, her voice genuinely happy. Orion gently ruffled her hair affectionately, smiling kindly. No need to thank me, Arya. This is just the beginning. Real fun times will start later. Arya nodded excitedly, turning to catch up with Amelia, who was already leaving. Orion remained standing beneath the gentle canopy of cherry blossoms for a moment longer, savoring the tranquil evening atmosphere. Now, why are you still here? Don't you have to head home? He asked, turning towards his right to see Elias still standing there. Elias lightly rubbed the back of his head and said, Haha, I wanted to chat with you for a bit. Orion lightly smiled, well, why are you beating around the bush like a girl? Just say it straight. Elias took a deep breath as his face turned serious. I didn't expect the nobles to actually be decent fellows. I thought you might be the exception since you recently became a noble, but most of our club members are actually good people. Haha, it was only this? I thought something serious happened. Orion laughed out loud and shook his head. Well, you can slowly interact with them and see for yourself how they are. Elias exhaled softly, shoulders visibly relaxing as he chuckled, I suppose you're right. Maybe I've just let past experiences cloud my judgment. But I'm glad you invited me to join. Orion smiled warmly, placing a reassuring hand on Elias's shoulder. I wouldn't have asked you if I didn't believe you belonged here. Trust yourself and give them a chance. You'll soon realize they're not much different from us. Didn't you invite him due to his high talent? Elias nodded thoughtfully, glancing up at the softly glowing evening sky. You're right. I'll try. Thanks, Orion. Orion squeezed Elias's shoulder gently before releasing it, grinning lightly. No need to thank me, Elias. This is just the start. Focus on completing Vicedine Hargan's test first, alright? Elias laughed softly, rubbing his neck sheepishly. Got it, boss. I'll try not to disappoint. Orion chuckled softly, shaking his head in amusement. Good. Now hurry and get some rest. Tomorrow, we'll spar and see just how far you've come along. Elias smiled brightly, his earlier uncertainty completely washed away by Orion's supportive words. Sounds good. I'll see you tomorrow then. With that, Elias turned and quickly walked away, his steps noticeably lighter than before. Orion watched him depart, a gentle smile on his lips, feeling satisfied by how the day had ended. Chapter 171, Returning Home. After lingering for a moment longer beneath the soft glow of the cherry blossoms, Orion finally turned and headed toward the Academy's exit, the tranquil atmosphere now quiet and peaceful as dusk settled over Thunder Peak Royal Academy. As Orion approached the Academy's main gates, the sight of the familiar obsidian carriage greeted him, its sleek, reflective surface gleaming softly under the gentle glow of the nearby lamps. Lucan leaned casually against the carriage, a playful grin immediately forming on his face upon noticing Orion. Edgar stood respectfully by the carriage door, patiently awaiting his arrival. Lucan's eyes twinkled mischievously as he called out teasingly, well, if it isn't the famous hero of the day. 50 floors, young Master Orion? Even the older students passing by couldn't stop gossiping about you. Orion chuckled lightly, shaking his head as he approached. Is that so, Grandpa Lucan? News sure travels fast around here. Lucan's lips twitched hearing his address, while Edgar inclined his head respectfully, his usually calm face displaying subtle pride. Indeed, young master. It seems your reputation has grown quite dramatically today. Congratulations on such an impressive accomplishment. Lucan shook his head and laughed, eyes gleaming with amusement as he added playfully, impressive? Sir Edgar, don't undersell it. Clearing 50 floors on your first attempt? That's practically legendary, young Master Orion. The students couldn't stop whispering about it. Orion raised an eyebrow slightly, an amused smile tugging at his lips. All right, enough flattery from you two. It was just a productive training session, nothing worth getting so excited over. Lucan smirked broadly, clearly unconvinced. Oh, sure. A productive training session that has the entire academy talking. Your humble act isn't fooling anyone, you know. Orion simply rolled his eyes good-naturedly, climbing gracefully into the carriage. Edgar closed the door softly behind him while Lucan hopped into the driver's seat, taking hold of the reins. As the carriage began rolling smoothly back toward the mansion, Edgar turned toward Orion, his usually composed gaze openly curious. If you don't mind my asking, young master, how was the experience within the tower? Orion leaned back comfortably, gazing out of the carriage's window thoughtfully. Challenging and insightful, Uncle Edgar. Each floor presented a new opponent, each echo demanding different skills. By the 50th floor, I faced someone genuinely stronger than myself in almost every aspect. Edgar nodded his head, clearly knowing about it. The echo at the 50th floor is really a bad match for you, young master. If you were on a higher level, with strong spells you could have won. But without those, the battle must have been tough. Orion nodded slightly, a small, rueful smile forming on his lips. It was. Physically stronger, more skilled, and experienced beyond my own level. He completely suppressed me. I even lost the fight at the end. Lucan softly laughed from the front. It's already a feat worth recording in the historical books that you managed to reach the 50th floor on your first attempt, young master. No need to dwell on that. Orion chuckled softly, shaking his head gently. Grandpa Lucan preaching wisdom? How rare. But don't worry, I won't let a mere defeat stop me. It was a humbling experience for sure, but also incredibly motivating. Edgar nodded approvingly, the respect and pride he held for Orion steadily growing. Indeed. To accept defeat so gracefully and use it to drive yourself forward is the mark of true strength, young master. Lucan decided to just ignore the form of address and smiled brightly, his voice filled with genuine encouragement. Yeah. You'll definitely beat him next time. Orion laughed lightly, feeling warmth from their unwavering support. Thank you both. We'll see how things go next time. The journey back to the mansion passed smoothly, quiet conversation filling the comfortable silence as Orion shared occasional insights from his tower ascent. Soon, they reached the mansion's front gates, the carriage rolling gently to a stop. Edgar opened the carriage door for Orion, bowing respectfully as Orion stepped out. Welcome home, young master. CTH novel, F.ir. At website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Orion nodded appreciatively, stretching his muscles briefly after the long carriage ride. Thank you, Uncle Edgar. Brother Lucan, rest well tonight. Lucan chuckled lightly, tipping an imaginary hat playfully. Same to you, young master. Rest well, you've earned it. Inside the mansion, Orion wasted no time heading directly toward the training grounds with Edgar. Despite the late hour, he diligently began his usual sword practice, the familiar motion steadying his mind and further refining his techniques. Edgar helped him to consolidate his gains as even he was impressed at the degree of improvement that Orion had. And soon, the rhythmic swings and precise footwork gradually erased lingering fatigue from his body, leaving him feeling refreshed and accomplished. After finishing his sword practice, Orion decided to forego his usual spell training for tonight. The sky had already darkened significantly, and a gentle tiredness reminded him of his physical limits. Heading back inside, Orion quietly approached his bedroom. Upon entering, he immediately noticed Fiora and Rena waiting patiently, their gentle smiles warmly welcoming him back. Fiora shyly stepped forward, bowing slightly. Master, your bath is already prepared. We made sure it's relaxing tonight, as you had such a long day. Orion smiled appreciatively, gently patting her head. Thank you both. Your timing couldn't be more perfect. Rena's eyes sparkled happily, clearly pleased by his approval. Please rest well, master. The luxurious herbal bath proved deeply soothing, effectively washing away the lingering fatigue and tension from Orion's muscles. Fiora and Rena gently assisted him, their careful attentiveness comforting and warm. Follow new episodes on the N0vel1st.c0m. After bathing, Orion headed directly toward the dining hall. Eldrick and Celine already sat comfortably at the table, a hearty dinner laid out before them. Celine immediately noticed Orion's arrival, her gentle smile warmly welcoming. Ah, Orion. Come, sit down. You must be famished after today's excitement. Orion took his seat smoothly, smiling lightly. News travels quickly even here, it seems. Eldrick chuckled heartily, his eyes twinkling merrily. Of course it does. 50 floors in the Tower of Myths, did you expect something less? Orion shrugged playfully, reaching for some food. I suppose I underestimated just how much the Academy loves its gossip. Celine laughed softly, shaking her head fondly. Your grandfather is especially proud. He's been boasting about you nonstop ever since he heard. Eldrick laughed sheepishly, rubbing his chin. Well, I can hardly help myself, can I? My grandson is already surpassing my wildest expectations. At this rate, you'll outshine us old folks in no time. Orion chuckled softly, eyes sparkling warmly. Please, Grandpa. I still have much to learn from you and Grandma. Today was merely another step forward. Celine nodded approvingly, her eyes gentle yet firm. Indeed. But remember, Orion, your journey is just beginning. The path forward will only become more challenging, especially due to the time. The Golden Age, Orion muttered softly, don't worry Grandma. Today showed me clearly just how far I can still improve myself. Eldrick smiled proudly, his voice warm and reassuring. Good. Acknowledging your limitations is vital for growth. Continue training diligently, and there'll be no limits to your potential. Dinner concluded peacefully, the conversation shifting pleasantly between Orion's tower experience, academy life, and family matters. Eventually, Orion rose from his seat, feeling deeply content yet tired. Celine smiled softly, her voice gentle as always. Rest well tonight, dear. Thank you, Grandma, Orion responded warmly, heading toward his bedroom. I'll see you both in the morning. Entering his room once more, Orion felt a comforting warmth fill his heart. Today had been incredibly demanding yet rewarding, a true turning point in his growth. He went ahead and lay down directly on his bed, closing his eyes to rest. Master, will you go to the Origin Mana Pool tomorrow? Chapter 172, Leaving for Academy. Orion lay comfortably on his luxurious bed, eyes closed but mind still active, gently illuminated by the soft glow of moonlight streaming through the curtains. Yes, but first I will head to the library. Since I got RP, I need to get some books. I plan to take some days off the academy and learn all the things from the books. It's faster than taking classes when I can just learn most of the things from this. Lumi's floating screen flickered cheerfully beside him. Oh, that's smart, Master. If you learn directly from books, you'll progress much faster and won't waste precious time sitting through lectures. Orion smiled faintly, eyes still closed. Exactly. Attending lectures is good for basics and interactions, but now that I've secured some RP, I'll grab as many valuable resources as I can from the library. Spending several days studying deeply will solidify my foundation far quicker. And you also get to skip classes legally, perfect for someone as busy as you, Master. He chuckled softly, gently shaking his head. Well, I'm not skipping exactly, I'm prioritizing. The Origin Mana Pool will probably push me to Tier 2 or at least closer to Tier 2 soon, so I must consolidate what I have now. Lumi's text bounced energetically on the edge of the screen, clearly excited. Right. The Origin Mana Pool will amplify your mana significantly if we're not wrong. With your perfect mana channels and unique lineage, your growth will be astronomical. Oh, greater than over equal to less than over equal to, oh. Orion sighed contentedly, the day's fatigue finally catching up to him. Let's hope so. The Tower of Myths showed me clearly that I can't afford complacency. I need rapid growth now more than ever. Don't worry, Master. You're improving by leaps and bounds every single day. That Echo won't stand a chance next time. Orion lightly laughed. Well, now I can't sleep thinking about tomorrow. Maybe I should read the Ninefold Physique Refinement Scripture and Basic Mana Breathing Technique. That's good as well. I heard people sleep when they have to study. So you might get sleepy. Orion shook his head and took out the 2 books from his storage ring and started reading. He deeply read and learned the next few levels of both techniques as slowly his eyes became heavy before fully closing shut as sleep gently beckoned him. Good night, Lumi. Thanks for today. Good night, Master. Rest well. Sweet dreams. Morning arrived softly, dawn's gentle sunlight filtering through the sheer curtains, bathing Orion's room in a golden warmth. He stirred awake, feeling refreshed and reinvigorated from a good night's rest. Sitting up, Orion stretched leisurely, muscles pleasantly tingling with residual fatigue. He wasted no time, smoothly sliding from his bed to the washroom and soon after returning and settling into the center of the room. Crossing his legs comfortably, Orion began cycling the basic mana breathing technique, immediately feeling the familiar soothing sensation as mana circulated smoothly through his channels. Each steady breath seemed to enhance his mana and calm his mind. His mana gently surged, refined and stable, nearing the peak of Tier 1. After completing several perfect cycles, Orion transitioned smoothly into practicing the Ninefold Body Refinement Scripture. Mana flowed differently now, spreading deeply into his body, igniting a familiar burn beneath his skin. The intense sensation steadily built, thoroughly refining his physique. Each passing session improved his body's resilience, strength, and physical harmony significantly. The first level of the technique seemed to focus on enhancing the entire physique so it could withstand the later refining. Sweat gently formed across his forehead, a clear sign of progress. After 2 intense hours of combined training, Orion concluded, exhaling deeply as he felt his physique steadily approaching the peak of the first refinement level. A gentle knock sounded at his door. Fiora's soft, shy voice called out warmly, Master, the bath is ready. Thank you, Fiora. Come in, Orion replied warmly. Fiora entered alongside Rena, both maids smiling gently. They quickly helped him to the bathroom, where a warm, fragrant herbal bath awaited. Orion relaxed completely, savoring the comforting sensations as Fiora and Rena gently washed away the morning's training fatigue. After finishing, Orion quickly dressed and headed directly toward Seraph's room. Knocking gently, he entered upon receiving no response, finding her seated quietly by the window, eyes distant yet peaceful. Follow new episodes on the N0vel1st.c0m. Good morning, Seraph, Orion greeted softly, sitting gently across from her. Seraph turned slowly, offering a small, hesitant nod of acknowledgement. Orion smiled gently, voice softening further. You seem calmer today. That's good to see. Seraph's eyes softened a fraction, her gaze lingering on him silently. Orion continued speaking calmly, sharing minor details about his training, his plans for the library, and the origin mana pool. Though Seraph remained silent, her attentive gaze and slightly relaxed shoulders showed clear improvement, her emotional walls subtly lowering each day. After chatting gently for several more minutes, Orion stood carefully. I'll be back again soon, Seraph. Take all the time you need. She responded with another gentle nod, her gaze softly appreciative yet still holding lingering shadows of her past. Orion exited quietly, heading toward the dining hall. Eldrick and Celine were already seated comfortably, enjoying morning tea and fresh fruits. Eldrick greeted him jovially, eyes twinkling warmly. Morning, brat. How are you feeling today? Sia the Oval Fire. At website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Excellent, Grandpa, Orion replied warmly, taking his seat. Today's training went smoothly again. I'm almost at the first refinement peak now. Celine smiled approvingly, her expression gentle yet proud. Good. Continue steadily, and you'll see significant improvement soon. Did you speak with Seraph again this morning? Yes, Orion replied thoughtfully, pouring himself some tea. She's gradually improving, though slowly. It'll take time before she fully opens up. Celine's eyes softened gently, voice filled with understanding. From what I have observed of the girl, she's had a rough past. Recovery from deep emotional trauma is always slow. Continue being patient with her, dear. Your presence is already clearly helping her. Breakfast proceeded pleasantly, filled with light-hearted discussions and cheerful banter. After finishing, Orion rose smoothly, smiling at Eldrick and Celine. I'll head to the academy now. I plan to visit the library first. Eldrick rubbed his chin. Already got bored with classes? Well, it's sooner than I had expected. Celine softly chuckled. Well, it's good as well. He can also learn how to earn those academy credit points himself. But if you want us to buy you some books, then don't hesitate. Orion looked at Celine and hesitated for a bit. Grandma, do we have an empty store in the capital? Eldrick raised a curious eyebrow, while Celine tilted her head. Yes, dear. We have a few empty stores. Do you need them for something? Orion thoughtfully nodded his head. Yes, but I will ask about it later. I need to do some other things first. The two of them nodded but didn't press him to ask more questions about it. Orion nodded appreciatively, exiting the dining hall and stepping outside, where Lucan and Edgar waited respectfully beside the obsidian carriage. Lucan's smile immediately brightened upon seeing him, eyes twinkling mischievously. Another exciting day awaits, young master. Ready to cause more commotion at the academy? Orion chuckled softly, shaking his head. I think yesterday's excitement was quite enough for now, brother Lucan. Today will be calmer. Edgar smiled faintly, respectfully opening the carriage door. We'll see, young master. Your calm days are still quite notable. Chapter 173, Library. Laughing lightly, Orion stepped inside. As the carriage moved smoothly toward Thunder Peak Royal Academy, Orion gazed calmly through the window, thoughts already turning toward the library and the precious knowledge he would soon gather, eager for the rapid progress awaiting him. The carriage smoothly rolled to a stop just before the grand gates of Thunder Peak Royal Academy. Orion stepped gracefully onto the cobblestone path, briefly pausing to glance around the bustling square. Groups of students walked about, some whispering excitedly as they caught sight of him, clearly still buzzing from his feats in the Tower of Myths. Ignoring the murmurs, Orion walked leisurely through the gate after scanning his student token. Then he headed toward the central garden, where morning sunlight danced across lush greenery and blooming flowers. The gentle fragrance of roses and lilies mixed pleasantly with the crisp morning air, calming Orion's mind as he approached the usual gathering spot beneath the grand cherry blossom tree. Arya and Emilia were already waiting there, seated on a stone bench beneath the spreading branches. Arya was, as usual, animatedly gesturing, likely recounting something amusing, while Emilia listened calmly with a faint smile on her serene face, occasionally replying to her. Arya's eyes lit up as she spotted Orion approaching, immediately leaping up from her seat. "Brother Orion, you're finally here." Emilia looked up as well, smiling gently and nodding softly in greeting. "Morning, Arya, Emilia," Orion replied warmly, smiling lightly as he reached them. He glanced curiously between the two girls. "What interesting stories have you two been sharing today?" Arya giggled softly, her eyes flashing with slight excitement. "We were actually just discussing you. The Academy is still buzzing about your tower climb yesterday. You're quite the celebrity now." Orion rolled his eyes playfully, sighing softly. "It seems like I won't be escaping this attention anytime soon." "As if you want to escape this attention. Underscore. Arya couldn't help but laugh a little. "Stop acting. You have been the focus of the Academy since the day you arrived here. More attention won't really affect you now." Orion shook his head lightly, smiling helplessly. "Let's move past that. Actually, there was something I wanted to ask you both." Arya immediately brightened again, leaning forward eagerly. "What is it, Brother Orion?" "It's about the origin mana pool," Orion began, his expression turning thoughtful. "I plan to visit it soon, but I'm unsure of the process. Do I need permission, or can I simply head there directly?" Arya tilted her head thoughtfully, her usually playful expression turning slightly serious. "You can't head there alone. An instructor has to accompany and take you there, since it's deep inside the Academy, in a guarded space. And the instructor also has to supervise students when accessing the origin mana pool. It's strictly monitored to prevent mishaps. Most students usually pick instructors they're comfortable with, someone trustworthy. Is there anyone specific you had in mind?" Orion raised an eyebrow. "Someone will monitor the process?" Arya nodded. There had been a few unfortunate accidents before, so the Academy started to take precautions. Orion thought briefly, immediately recalling the relaxed yet authoritative presence of Instructor Viren. Instructor Viren seems suitable. He's already quite familiar with my abilities from yesterday's climb, and he also owes me one due to that bet he won against another instructor. I'll find him later at the Tower of Myths." Arya smiled approvingly, nodding enthusiastically. "That's a great choice. Instructor Viren is known to be fair and approachable. He'll definitely help you." Orion nodded. "Then that's what I'll do." His gaze shifted to Emilia. "And how long do you plan to not talk with others? You're already in the club chthovalfire.at website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality." Emilia's lips twitched. "I only talk with Lady Arya or her friends." "Do you think I'm any less than her friend?" he asked speechlessly. But he still felt better that she had spoken something, at least from now on she would start talking more. Emilia turned her head to the side and refused to elaborate further. Orion looked at her speechlessly and shook his head. "Well, thanks for the answers. I'll head there now. I might be late, so let's catch up some other day. I'll seek him out today." Arya tilted her head curiously, eyes sparkling. "Is that your plan for today?" He shook his head lightly, a gentle smile forming. "Actually, no. I'm heading to the library first. After yesterday, I have enough RP to secure several important books. I'll probably take a few days off from classes to properly absorb everything. Follow new episodes on the N0vel1st.c0m. Arya's expression shifted to playful disappointment, mock pouting dramatically. Oh, and here we were looking forward to seeing what more mess you'd create in the academy. Orion chuckled softly, gently patting Arya's head affectionately. Don't worry, I won't disappear completely. Once I'm done, I'll do something to entertain you again. Arya beamed brightly again, her pout immediately replaced by a cheerful smile. That's a promise. Amelia's smile widened slightly, her voice calm yet warmly supportive. It's wise to use your RP effectively, Orion. Books from the Academy Library hold vast knowledge you won't find easily elsewhere. Oh? Finally decided to open up? He inwardly smiled and said in agreement, exactly. With so many precious books sitting there, it would be a shame not to read them. Arya clasped her hands together excitedly. Then we won't keep you here any longer. Go and gather as much knowledge as you can. Orion chuckled softly, feeling amused at her excitement. Thank you. Good luck with your classes today, I'll see you both later. Orion parted ways with Arya and Amelia, their cheerful goodbyes following him softly as he walked along the meticulously paved paths of Thunder Peak Royal Academy. The library stood majestically at the heart of the academy. Orion paused briefly in front of its ornate, wooden double doors, taking a calm breath before pushing them open gently and stepping inside. The library's interior was a vast chamber filled with countless shelves lined meticulously with thousands upon thousands of books. Soft, ambient mana lamps hovered gracefully near the ceiling. Students and instructors quietly moved between aisles, their hushed whispers contributing to the library's peaceful yet scholarly atmosphere. Near the entrance sat a massive wooden desk, meticulously organized and overseen by an elderly librarian whose sharp, intelligent eyes seemed to miss nothing. A different librarian on duty today, he wondered while approaching the man calmly, noticing that he was already observing him. Good morning, Orion greeted softly, offering a polite bow. I'm Orion Hellstorm. I was hoping you might spare a moment to help me. The librarian, adjusting a pair of thin spectacles perched on his long nose, studied Orion briefly, his stern expression subtly softening. Of course, young Hellstorm. I recognize you. Yesterday's ascent in the Tower of Myths has been quite the topic among students. How might I assist you today? Orion smiled faintly, slightly amused that even the librarian had heard of his exploits. I'm looking to strengthen my foundational knowledge of the core elements. Are there books recording others' understandings of these elements? I'd like to deepen my comprehension, particularly of core elements aside from fire and wood. The librarian's eyes brightened appreciatively, clearly pleased by Orion's thoughtful approach. Oh? That's very thoughtful of you. Most students don't bother to learn anything about elements they don't possess. Such a wasteful approach, even after I've advised them so many times. Chapter 174, Buying Books. And yes, we have such books. They're foundational texts compiling generations of insights and understandings of each core element. But due to their foundational nature, each of these elemental compendiums is only priced at 50 RP per book. Orion's eyes brightened at such a cheap price. They were basically on the same level as a mere Tier 1 spell. I'd like copies of all core elemental compendiums then, excluding fire and wood. The librarian swiftly scribbled a few notes, nodding approvingly. Very well. That includes water, earth, metal, wind, thunder, ice, and poison. 7 volumes, totaling 350 RP. Orion confirmed without hesitation, satisfied with the value of such knowledge. Excellent, thank you. Additionally, I'd like to inquire about the affinity rune books of these elements as well. At this, the librarian smiled warmly, nodding approvingly. Those particular guidebooks are freely provided to students as foundational academy material. They detail the necessary primary runes, structure of mana circuits, and also the runic inscriptions necessary for affinity rune creation. We give them to students based on the affinity they showed during the entrance test, he said with a smile, making Orion slightly frown. However, before he could say anything, the librarian continued, however, since it's the first-ranked student asking for these, I will make an exception and give all of them to you. Orion's eyes lit up slightly with pleasant surprise. All of them? Thank you very much. The librarian retrieved a huge, neatly bound book from behind the desk, gently placing it before Orion. Take your time studying it carefully. It would be helpful to battle against those with these elements if you know them well enough. And learning this knowledge will significantly ease your own affinity rune creation and spell creation. Orion nodded gratefully, his expression turning thoughtful once more. One more thing, do you have books specifically covering the theory of mana circuits and the theory of runic inscriptions? I want to further strengthen my foundational understanding to better construct affinity runes and spells within my sea of consciousness. The librarian's expression became even more approving, clearly delighted by Orion's depth of thought. We do indeed have these. Both subjects are organized into 3 distinct levels: basic theory, advanced theory, and mastery theory. Mastery theory? Orion echoed curiously. Indeed, the librarian confirmed, eyes twinkling slightly with scholarly pride. Basic theory covers fundamental principles, priced at 100 Rp per subject. Advanced theory explores more complex techniques and deeper applications, priced at 500 Rp per subject. Mastery theory delves into the higher intricacies, insights typically reserved for truly exceptional students or instructors. Each mastery theory volume is priced at 2000 Rp. Orion listened carefully and nodded his head. Then I'll take the basic theory books for both mana circuits and runic inscriptions. Later, once I master these fundamentals thoroughly, I'll revisit for the advanced and mastery versions. The librarian scribbled additional notes, nodding approvingly at Orion's measured choice. Wise decision, young Hellstorm. Truly mastering foundational theories first will significantly aid you when tackling advanced or mastery concepts later. Orion smiled appreciatively, his respect for the scholarly librarian growing. Thank you, sir. Your guidance today has been invaluable. It's my pleasure, the librarian responded warmly, neatly stacking Orion's selected books atop the desk. Now, time for payment. How will I do that? He curiously asked. The librarian chuckled and said, show me your student badge, it stores your data and the RP will also be credited to you. Orion nodded and took out the badge from his storage ring. Here, he said, handing it to the librarian. The librarian scanned it and raised an eyebrow in surprise. Oh? You have 2000 RP in your badge. Orion raised an eyebrow in surprise as well. Huh? That shouldn't be. I only got 1000 after the Tower of Myths. The librarian rubbed his chin. The Transcendent Tablet might have doubled it for breaking the past records. Oh? The Transcendent Tablet? This might be possible. Anyway, since I have enough credit then I won't have to worry about it for a while. Sir, the novel, F.ir.at website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. The librarian nodded and deducted the credit before giving him the badge back. Orion took the books and carefully put them into his spatial ring, feeling rather good to have gathered so many good things in a day. Thanks for all the help today, sir. The librarian smiled warmly and went back to sit in his place, his face turning stoic again as he looked at the rest of the students. Orion smiled and turned around, feeling an immense sense of satisfaction at the wealth of knowledge he had just secured. The gentle warmth of the morning sun greeted him again as he stepped out onto the academy's busy pathways, students bustling to and from various lectures and training sessions. Their occasional curious glances toward him only further emphasized how quickly his reputation had spread throughout Thunder Peak Royal Academy. You really got a treasure trove today, Master. Follow new episodes on the N0vel1st.c0m. Lumi's cheerful screen chimed, her excitement matching Orion's own feelings. I did indeed, Orion responded inwardly, smiling faintly. With all these resources at hand, my cultivation and understanding should skyrocket in no time. Now, Orion's thoughts shifted to his next priority, the Origin Mana Pool. After briefly scanning the crowd of students walking around, he turned toward the Tower of Myths, confident that Instructor Viren would be there supervising as usual. As Orion approached the towering structure, its imposing majesty seemed less daunting now, familiarity replacing the awe he felt previously. Several students lingered around the tower's base, animatedly discussing strategies and experiences, many casting admiring or envious glances toward Orion as he walked past. Instructor Viren stood near the entrance, chatting quietly with another instructor. Spotting Orion approaching, he swiftly ended his conversation and offered a welcoming smile. "Ah, young Orion. Back so soon for another climb, are you?" Viren teased lightly, his eyes bright with amusement. "You need to wait at least another week before you can attempt though." Orion chuckled softly, shaking his head as he replied, "Not today, instructor. Actually, I came here to ask you about something else, the origin mana pool." Viren raised his brows in mild surprise, his expression turning more thoughtful. "The origin mana pool? Well, that certainly makes sense given your rapid progress. You won it during the entrance test, about time you use it. I'm guessing you need an instructor to accompany you there?" Orion nodded in confirmation. "Yes, Arya and Amelia mentioned that an instructor's presence is mandatory. And since I haven't really interacted with any other instructor, I thought you would be the best choice. That is, of course, if you're available." Viren laughed warmly, waving his hand dismissively. "Available? Young Orion, I'd be a fool to turn down such an opportunity to forge closer ties with a student of your caliber. Your future achievements will undoubtedly be impressive, and I wouldn't mind being known as one of your early supporters." Orion smiled appreciatively, somewhat relieved by Viren's straightforwardness. "Thank you, Instructor Viren. I genuinely appreciate your willingness." Viren nodded firmly, turning toward a pathway that led deeper into the academy's inner grounds. "Follow me, Orion." The origin mana pool is located in a restricted area within the academy, deep underground. It's secured to prevent any unauthorized access or accidents. Orion matched his pace, listening attentively as Viren continued explaining as they walked. Chapter 175, Beginning Training. The origin mana pool is essentially a concentration point of natural mana drawn from powerful underground ley lines. Because the mana density is immensely high there, you'll need to be careful. Don't be overly ambitious, take your time absorbing and circulating the mana steadily. Going too quickly can overwhelm your channels, causing potentially severe injuries. Orion nodded solemnly, understanding the gravity of Viren's words. "I understand. Are there any signs I should particularly look out for to prevent overexertion?" Viren gave him an approving glance, clearly pleased by Orion's careful inquiry. "You'll initially feel an intense yet manageable pressure as your mana channels adjust. If you start experiencing sharp pain or unusual discomfort, immediately slow down or pause to stabilize your circulation. The key to benefiting greatly from the origin mana pool is patience and control." Orion thoughtfully considered Viren's advice, mentally repeating the warning to himself. "Understood. Patience and control. I'll keep that in mind." Viren smiled approvingly, patting Orion's shoulder in a gesture of encouragement. "Good. Also, the mana inside the pool has two unique properties. It's highly beneficial for purifying and widening your mana channels. You may notice lasting improvements to your mana's purity and flow efficiency afterward, which is invaluable at your current stage. And it can be used by warriors to refine their physique as well." Orion's eyes flashed slightly at this revelation, clearly recognizing the significant advantage such effects would bring. "That sounds exactly like what I need right now. It seems even more beneficial than I anticipated." They soon reached a discreet stone building partially hidden beneath sprawling ivy and dense foliage. A pair of stern academy guards stood watch, immediately stepping aside respectfully upon seeing Viren. "Welcome, Instructor Viren," one guard greeted respectfully, eyes shifting curiously toward Orion. "And Student Orion Hellstorm, correct? Congratulations on your recent tower climb." "Thank you," Orion replied calmly, nodding politely to the guards. Viren chuckled softly, amused by Orion's rapidly spreading fame. Well, Orion, it seems everyone recognizes your name now. Get used to it. He led Orion down a spiraling staircase that descended beneath the academy's surface. The air grew thicker with powerful, tangible mana that made Orion's skin tingle with anticipation. Eventually, they reached an expansive underground chamber lit by gently glowing crystals embedded in its high stone walls. At its center lay a crystalline pool filled with vibrant, azure mana that gently swirled, exuding immense yet controlled power. This, Viren announced softly, gesturing toward the shimmering pool, is the Origin Mana Pool. Search *the Nelfer.net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Orion stood captivated, feeling his heart pound slightly in excitement and anticipation. The sheer intensity of mana radiating from the pool seemed to scream immense benefits, yet he also clearly felt the subtle danger in its overpowering aura. Remember, Viren reiterated firmly, his voice calm, patience and control are key. Your potential is astounding, Orion. Use this opportunity wisely, and you'll find yourself progressing in leaps and bounds. Orion turned toward Viren, lips curling into a smile. Thank you again, Instructor Viren. I'll follow your guidance carefully. Viren nodded approvingly, stepping back to give Orion room to proceed. Then go ahead and begin. I'll monitor your condition closely from here. Taking a steadying breath, Orion approached the Origin Mana Pool. His eyes sparkled with deep excitement, knowing this moment would make him increase his strength greatly. He moved forward as he soon reached the edge of the crystalline Origin Mana Pool, pausing there, his heartbeat quickening in anticipation. The gently swirling azure mana was so dense and potent that it visibly rippled in slow, hypnotic waves, emanating an intense, enticing aura. Its serene beauty belied the immense power it held within. Taking a deep breath to steady himself, Orion stepped carefully into the pool, immediately feeling an overwhelming sensation. His skin tingled as the concentrated mana rapidly began to permeate his pores, surging into his body with an almost tangible force. His eyes widened slightly as he felt the intense influx of pure mana, unlike anything he'd ever experienced before. It surged into his channels vigorously, swiftly pushing them to their current limits. Orion quickly sat down cross-legged in the shallow depths of the pool, the shimmering mana coming up to his chest. He immediately began circulating the basic mana training method, carefully guiding the immense influx of mana into steady streams within his body. His breathing deepened, synchronized with the rhythmic cycling of mana throughout his channels. As he focused, Orion felt the gentle yet relentless pressure gradually begin widening and refining his mana channels, just as Viren had described. Every breath brought with it a powerful rush of purified energy, progressively elevating his internal mana purity and expanding his mana pathways. However, within moments, Orion sensed something unusual. His primal mana channels, unique and vastly superior to ordinary cultivators, began responding intensely to the high density of mana. Instead of merely absorbing mana passively, his 9 primal channels began actively drawing in mana from the pool with shocking veracity, creating a whirlwind-like suction around him. Orion's eyes flashed open briefly, surprise and concern evident on his face. The mana influx grew explosively powerful, quickly overwhelming the rate at which his basic mana training method could refine and absorb it. A faint frown formed on his brow as he struggled momentarily to stabilize himself, aware that if he didn't quickly address the situation, the overpowering mana could seriously harm his channels. From the edge of the pool, Instructor Viren watched Orion carefully, his initial calm observation turning swiftly to worry. The turbulent mana currents around Orion were visible now, swirling violently as they rushed into his body. Orion, steady yourself. Viren called urgently, concern evident in his voice. Yet, he hesitated from intervening directly, afraid any interruption could potentially make things worse for Orion. However, Orion's mind remained clear despite the intense pressure. Swiftly assessing the situation, he made a decisive choice. Understanding clearly that his mana training alone wasn't enough to manage the sheer amount of incoming energy, he instantly shifted his focus, deciding to simultaneously cultivate his physique. Without hesitation, Orion smoothly transitioned into practicing the ninefold body refinement scripture. The surplus mana, unable to be fully refined and absorbed into his mana channels and SOC alone, was instead rapidly channeled toward his physical body, aggressively circulating through his muscles, bones, and organs. An intense, searing sensation spread throughout Orion's body as the mana fiercely entered his tissues. His teeth clenched slightly in response to the discomfort, yet his determination never wavered. He resolutely guided the powerful currents, directing the excess energy to thoroughly temper his physique. Viren stared in disbelief and growing astonishment, his experienced eyes instantly recognizing Orion's extraordinary actions. The young genius wasn't merely cultivating mana or refining his physique separately, he was actively pursuing both paths simultaneously. A dual-path walker? Viren thought, deeply astonished. His heart pounded faster in a mixture of worry and excitement, knowing that such cultivators were incredibly rare, often viewed as monstrous prodigies capable of shaking entire kingdoms. He must have tremendous confidence to attempt this now, especially under such intense circumstances. Yet despite his worry, Viren forced himself to remain quiet. He understood clearly the grave risks of interrupting a cultivator during critical breakthroughs. For now, he could only observe vigilantly, ready to act instantly should Orion's condition suddenly worsen. Inside the pool, Orion's senses heightened dramatically as his mind sharpened under the intense strain. Mana and physical cultivation intertwined smoothly within him, reinforcing each other as he skillfully managed the turbulent currents surging through his body. Chapter 176, Voracious Devouring. With each passing moment, his primal channels expanded and strengthened exponentially, greedily absorbing the dense mana and integrating it fully. The first barrier broke unexpectedly. Orion felt a powerful surge, signaling his breakthrough into the second level of the basic mana training method. Immediately, he felt a profound shift within his sea of consciousness. His mental landscape expanded rapidly, doubling in size within mere seconds, granting him unprecedented clarity and spaciousness. 9 new mana channels simultaneously opened within him, seamlessly connecting with his original 9, bringing his total number of active channels to 18. Yet, the breakthrough did not stop there. Moments later, another surge rippled throughout his body as the ninefold physique refinement scripture also reached its second level. Orion's physique rapidly strengthened further, his bones and muscles growing denser and more resilient, each fiber of his body thoroughly tempered by the immense mana circulating within. The combined breakthroughs sent a shockwave throughout Orion's immediate vicinity, violently stirring the waters of the origin mana pool and sending powerful ripples crashing against its crystalline edges. Viren stood frozen in astonishment, his heart pounding fiercely. He'd expected Orion to benefit significantly from the origin mana pool, but never had he anticipated such a powerful dual breakthrough simultaneously. Viren could only shake his head in disbelief, understanding now more clearly than ever just how monstrous Orion's potential truly was. As the turbulent ripples subsided, Orion barely had a moment to stabilize his breathing before another overwhelming surge of mana crashed violently into him. His newly expanded sea of consciousness and the 18 primal mana channels thirstily absorbed mana at an exponentially higher rate than before, rapidly saturating his internal space. A sudden realization dawned upon Orion: this wasn't yet over. The breakthrough had vastly amplified his absorption capacity, causing him to draw mana far beyond his previous limit. His mind buzzed urgently, recognizing that if he did not swiftly channel this enormous influx of mana, it would wreak devastating havoc on his body. Without hesitation, Orion shifted his attention decisively once again, funneling the overflowing torrent of mana directly into his physique. He immediately initiated the second level of the ninefold physique refinement scripture, Skin of Steel. The moment he began circulating this new level, a searing pain erupted across every inch of his body. The sensation was excruciating, as if countless tiny knives were scraping away his flesh and muscles with relentless cruelty. Orion gritted his teeth, sweat mixing with the crystalline waters of the pool as waves of agony overwhelmed him. Instructor Viren's eyes widened in alarm, his hands tightening involuntarily into fists as he watched Orion struggle against the violent torrent of mana. Viren clearly recognized the signs. Orion had reached the critical second stage of true physical refinement. To achieve Skin of Steel, the practitioner had to withstand the profound agony of completely reconstructing their epidermal layer, transforming it into armor-like resilience. Yet, Orion's condition was far more extreme than usual, given the overwhelming density of mana rapidly saturating his body. Viren knew well that most cultivators would faint from pain or severely injure themselves attempting something so extreme. Orion, Viren murmured softly, anxiety tightening his chest, hold strong. Don't succumb now. The backlash would be disastrous if I interrupted you now, otherwise, I would have dragged you out of there. Within the pool, Orion's awareness narrowed sharply. The world around him faded away as his entire consciousness fixated solely on the excruciating process of skin tempering. With each passing second, his skin repeatedly cracked, split, and bled, only to be rapidly healed by the ceaseless influx of potent mana. The cycles of breaking and healing felt eternal, brutally forcing Orion's pain threshold far beyond his known limits as the mana was increasing his sensitivity just like during his awakening. Yet despite the torment, Orion refused to surrender. His determination blazed fiercely, each agonizing moment of suffering intensifying his resolve further. He stubbornly forced the mana deeper into his physique, guiding it carefully to systematically reconstruct each layer of his skin until it steadily reached an unimaginable resilience and density. Slowly but surely, the chaotic mana began to stabilize within Orion's body, becoming harmonious with his flesh. Viren watched in stunned silence, astonishment overtaking his anxiety as Orion visibly tempered his body at an astonishing pace. The youth's skin gradually shifted, acquiring a faint metallic sheen beneath the rippling water, signifying the profound success of the Skin of Steel refinement. After a prolonged period of torment, Orion suddenly felt the second-level barrier begin trembling within his physique. With a final surge of willpower, he decisively shattered through, stepping into the third level, bone forging, while simultaneously breaking into the third tier of the basic mana training technique. At this breakthrough, another profound transformation occurred. His sea of consciousness doubled in size yet again, while 9 additional mana channels burst open, bringing the total to a staggering 27 primal channels. Yet the origin mana pool remained abundant, with a majority of its dense mana still actively rushing into Orion's now dangerously overextended body. The instant he began circulating the third level, bone forging, Orion's agony surged explosively, vastly eclipsing even the torturous pain he'd just endured. The origin mana savagely penetrated deep into his bones, ruthlessly tearing them apart, reshaping and condensing their very structure. Each bone in his body fractured and mended simultaneously, the sensation like endless, cruelly repeated hammer blows crushing him from the inside out. A raw, agonized scream involuntarily escaped Orion's lips, startling Viren, who had never before witnessed such fierce cultivation in his long years as an instructor. The older man's heart trembled fiercely, torn between awe and worry, deeply uncertain how Orion could possibly withstand such intense, repeated breakthroughs. Orion's consciousness flickered dangerously, darkness encroaching at the edges of his vision as the unbearable pain threatened to render him unconscious. He felt his awareness slipping rapidly, the violent mana surges pushing his mind and body far beyond their breaking points. Just as Orion teetered on the brink of collapse, Lumi's vibrant voice urgently echoed clearly within his fading consciousness. Master! Don't you dare give up now. You are Primus Zalzarion Draconis. The one true being to have fused 3 legacies near perfectly. The legendary prodigy destined to surpass everyone. You can't let this little pain defeat you. Her fierce encouragement acted like a spark within Orion's spirit, igniting a blazing determination even within his blurred mind. Sar the novel, F.ir. At website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Gritting his teeth fiercely, Orion summoned his last vestiges of consciousness, rallying his willpower in defiance of the consuming darkness. She's right, I won't lose here. Not after coming this far, Orion vowed inwardly, focusing intensely on the agony racking his body. He harnessed the brutal pain itself, using it as fuel to guide the overwhelming origin mana further into the deepest parts of his bones, fiercely completing each cycle of bone forging at a rapid yet controlled pace. Slowly, Orion reached the very peak of the bone forging level. His bones had transformed completely, becoming dense and powerful beyond ordinary human standards. Just as Orion approached completion, a sudden, fierce stir resonated within him, something primal, deep, and immensely powerful awoke abruptly. It was his dormant dragon bloodlines, his perfect fire and thunder true dragon legacies, awakening violently within the turbulent chaos. These two bloodlines, long awaiting their chance, roared forth hungrily, immediately resonating with Orion's determination and the immense reservoir of mana swirling around him. Instantly, an astonishing phenomenon occurred. Orion's draconic bloodlines explosively surged forth, ruthlessly devouring all the origin mana remaining in the pool. Chapter 177, Suppressing the Royal Capital. The mana visibly surged towards Orion's body, forming a colossal whirlpool as it was aggressively pulled into him, guided directly into refining his channels, physique, and even his bloodlines simultaneously. Viren watched in complete shock and awe, jaw agape and eyes widened to their limits as he witnessed the impossible spectacle unfolding before him. What in heaven's name, Viren murmured hoarsely, unable to tear his gaze away. His body is actively devouring the origin mana? Just what exactly is this, boy? In mere moments, every last drop of dense mana in the pool had vanished, greedily absorbed by Orion's now profoundly transformed body and awakened bloodlines. At last, the violent storm of mana settled. Orion, utterly spent and finally reaching his absolute limit, felt darkness envelop his consciousness gently. His battered yet vastly strengthened body slowly fell backward into the now empty origin mana pool, completely unconscious. The chamber returned to a sudden, profound silence. Viren stood frozen in stunned disbelief, his breathing heavy as he stared at Orion's unconscious yet undeniably transformed form lying peacefully within the empty pool. After a long moment, Viren slowly exhaled deeply, gathering himself as a complex mixture of relief, astonishment, and profound respect surged through him. Absolutely monstrous, he whispered quietly, admiration evident in his voice. Today's events, no, this young man, he will shake the foundations of this continent. Viren stepped swiftly forward, carefully lifting Orion from the now tranquil pool. Despite his worry, a deep, genuine smile formed on Viren's face as he carefully carried Orion back towards the chamber's exit. You've truly outdone all expectations, Orion Hellstorm, Viren murmured softly, his voice filled with awe and anticipation. Now rest. You've earned it, your path is only just beginning. Back at Hellstorm Estate, a serene silence permeated the air. The sunlight streamed gently through the windows, casting a warm glow upon the neatly arranged furniture and polished marble floor. However, the tranquility was suddenly disrupted by a loud commotion echoing from the estate's entrance. Instructor Viren carefully supported Orion's unconscious form as he approached the mansion's grand gates, followed closely by Edgar and Lucan. Both men wore expressions filled with worry and barely contained panic, while Viren's face was pale, covered in a thin sheen of nervous sweat as he had talked with Edgar about Eldric's patience. Just as they stepped through the ornate gateway, an intense pressure suddenly descended upon the entire area. Dark thunderclouds swiftly gathered in the skies above, swirling ominously as a terrifying, invisible force weighed down upon the capital city. The once bright morning abruptly darkened, replaced by oppressive gloom. Within seconds, all throughout the royal capital, commoners and nobles alike trembled uncontrollably, their faces pale with terror. Many fell to their knees, gasping for breath as the horrifying presence pressed down upon their chests. Standing near the mansion's front entrance, Eldric's usually warm and lively demeanor had instantly transformed into chilling coldness. His eyes blazed fiercely, filled with overwhelming fury and icy killing intent. Beside him, Celine's gentle expression had similarly vanished, replaced by intense concern and suppressed anger. Eldric took a single step forward, the ground cracking beneath his feet as he moved. His voice emerged low and deathly calm, yet carried an unmistakable threat of violence. Instructor Viren, would you care to explain exactly what happened to my grandson? The terrifying pressure grew even heavier, Eldric's aura alone threatening to crush everyone present. Lucan and Edgar quickly stepped aside, their heads bowed respectfully as they struggled to withstand the terrifying atmosphere. Viren's breathing quickened sharply, his heartbeat pounding painfully within his chest. He had always known Eldrick was powerful, but only now did he truly grasp the sheer magnitude of the legendary mage whom even the king considered equal to a duke. Yet he never felt such pressure from any of the dukes. Quickly gathering his thoughts, Viren immediately lowered himself slightly in respect, carefully adjusting his hold on Orion to show utmost reverence. Esteemed Master Eldrick, Lady Selene, I deeply apologize. Orion is unharmed, he merely fell unconscious due to exhaustion after cultivation. Eldrick's eyes narrowed dangerously, the dark clouds overhead crackling with violent lightning. His voice dropped even lower, each word carrying killing intent. Merely exhausted? Speak carefully, Viren. You arrived here carrying my unconscious grandson, clearly, it was not so simple. Viren hurriedly nodded, fear and respect evident on his face as he swiftly explained, yes, my lord. Orion visited the origin mana pool under my supervision. However, his cultivation methods were astonishingly fierce, far beyond what I anticipated. He successfully broke through multiple levels in both his mana cultivation and physique refinements simultaneously, something I've never witnessed before. And due to some unknown reason, his body directly absorbed all the mana within the origin pool. Selene stepped forward sharply, her expression shifting from worry to immense astonishment. Carefully reaching out, she gently lifted Orion's unconscious form into her embrace, cradling him protectively as she closely inspected his condition. Her expression softened slightly upon confirming Orion was truly unharmed, merely exhausted. Eldrick stared deeply at Viren, carefully assessing every word. Slowly, the dark clouds overhead began dissipating, the oppressive aura gradually lifting from the terrified city. Though Eldrick's anger subsided slightly, his eyes remained fiercely sharp and piercing. An unknown reason? You saw clearly? Viren respectfully inclined his head, his voice trembling slightly with lingering awe. Yes, Master Eldrick. Orion's body forcefully devoured the origin mana pool completely. Such a phenomenon. I have never even read about anything remotely similar, much less witnessed it personally. Eldrick exchanged a subtle glance with Selene, a profound understanding passing between them. Finally, Eldrick turned back to Viren, his expression easing further into solemnity. Sir, the novelfire.net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Instructor Viren, listen carefully. What you saw today, both here and at the origin mana pool, must remain completely confidential. Not a word of this event will be spoken to anyone, not even among your closest peers. The only exception is the Dean herself. Is that clear? Viren immediately bowed deeply, his sincerity unquestionable. Of course, Master Eldrick. Upon my honor and life, not a word shall escape my lips aside from informing the Dean. I swear it. Eldrick stared silently at Viren for several moments, carefully evaluating the man's earnest expression before nodding slightly in satisfaction. The remaining clouds swiftly dispersed from above, sunlight once more gently bathing the estate grounds in warmth. Very well. I trust you, Viren. You've handled the situation adequately. Orion will rest and recover fully here, under our watchful care, Eldrick said, his voice returning finally to its usual calm with authority. Viren straightened respectfully, immense relief flooding through him. Thank you for your understanding and trust, Master Eldrick, Lady Selene. If there's nothing more, I shall take my leave immediately. Eldrick nodded calmly, silently dismissing Viren. The instructor quickly exited the mansion grounds, still shaken yet profoundly respectful of Orion's terrifying potential and Eldrick's formidable presence. Lucan and Edgar hurriedly walked out with him to send him away. Selene gently adjusted her hold on Orion, her expression both relieved and deeply concerned. She exchanged another meaningful glance with Eldrick before softly murmuring, "Come, old man. Let's bring Orion inside and let him rest. We will watch over him carefully. Looks like his legacy is even more impressive than what we had expected." Eldrick nodded gravely, his eyes filled with deep affection and subtle worry as he gently reached out to caress Orion's pale, exhausted face. Indeed, Selene. We underestimated the greatness of the human emperor legacy. Orion's path will undoubtedly shake more than just this little kingdom, the entire continent may tremble beneath his steps. But whatever comes, we shall protect and support him. Join the Discord for anything? So, how were the chapters? I'm 9 chaps in debt now. Cleaning the debt, 1 chap at a time. Chapter 178, Club gather back at Thunder Peak Royal Academy. The early afternoon sunlight cascaded softly over the beautifully arranged central garden, casting gentle shadows beneath the grand cherry blossom tree. Its branches rustled quietly in the breeze, scattering a few delicate petals across the stone pathways below. Beneath the tree's shade, Arya, Amelia, NYSS, Elias, Kale, Sylvia, and Valira had gathered. Arya and Amelia had arrived first, quietly discussing Orion's remarkable tower ascension from the previous day, until they were soon joined by the rest of their friends. Elias, however, was notably late, arriving with quickened steps and a grim expression. As he approached, Arya immediately noticed the uncharacteristically solemn look on his face, her bright expression shifting to one of immediate concern. "What's wrong, Elias?" Arya asked urgently, her amethyst eyes filling with worry as she stepped forward. She had been feeling something might happen today, and Elias's expression just increased her worry. Amelia, standing calmly beside Arya, also fixed Elias with a quiet, questioning gaze. Elias took a slow, steady breath, clearly hesitant to speak, yet knowing the importance of his news. "It's Orion. I just saw Instructor Viren carrying him out of the academy." Orion was completely unconscious. A shocked silence instantly fell upon the group. Arya's face paled immediately, worry etched deeply into her features. "Brother Orion, unconscious? How? What happened?" NYSS's usually calm expression turned unusually serious, her eyes narrowing slightly as she carefully listened, clearly concerned despite her outward calmness, as Orion was the only person even in their group who actually dared to stand close to her or talk with her. Beside her, Sylvia's relaxed demeanor similarly vanished, replaced by a sharp gaze filled with seriousness. Valira exchanged anxious glances with Kale, both clearly taken aback and uncertain about the sudden alarming news. Amelia's usually stoic expression shifted subtly, her blue eyes flickering with quiet but undeniable worry as she stepped a little closer to Arya instinctively, offering silent support. Seeing their concern, Elias swiftly raised his hands in reassurance. "Don't panic. As soon as I saw them, I ran over and asked Instructor Viren directly about what happened. He said Orion passed out because he overexerted himself in the Origin mana pool." Arya visibly relaxed slightly upon hearing Elias's reassurance, though worry still lingered clearly in her eyes. Overexertion in the Origin mana pool, he must have really pushed himself beyond his limits to end up like that. Sylvia folded her arms thoughtfully, eyes flickering with contemplation. "I didn't expect him to be the reckless type. Did he stay inside too long or lose control of the Origin mana pool?" Kale lightly shook his head, his expression easing slightly from the previous worry. "I don't think he's the reckless type after the interactions I've had. I think something might have gone beyond his expectations." Valira's gaze flickered between Arya and Amelia, her expression turning slightly gentler as she sought to reassure her friends. Instructor Viren wouldn't lie or downplay something that serious. If he said Orion simply needs rest, we should trust his assessment. cthnovelfire.net *, website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. NYSS's expression returned back to her calm, however, only she knew the turbulent waves crashing inside her heart. "Is it because of me? Will all of this repeat itself again? Will this curse take away the only friend I have managed to make since then?" The others didn't notice her strange mood as everyone continued to talk about Orion and no one was beside her. Arya exhaled softly, nodding her head in quiet agreement with Valira's comforting words. "You're all right, of course. Brother Orion wouldn't want us worrying excessively about him. We should trust that he'll recover swiftly." Elias relaxed visibly, clearly relieved that his friend seemed calmer now. Instructor Viren also mentioned Orion should recover completely within just a few days. "He simply overtaxed himself, it's nothing critical or permanent. Hearing Elias's confident reassurance, Amelia's posture subtly relaxed. Her quiet voice emerged steadily, yet carried clear conviction. Then we should respect Orion's rest and privacy, allowing him proper time to recover fully without disturbance. Arya nodded in agreement, determination clearly returning to her bright eyes. Amelia is right. Brother Orion's strength must have improved after such an event. He wouldn't want us lingering in worry like this. Instead, let's use this time productively, improving ourselves so that when Brother Orion returns, he sees our progress clearly. Sylvia chuckled softly, nodding appreciatively toward Arya's swift shift to determination. Nicely said. Orion wouldn't forgive himself if he found out his absence slowed us down in any way. We must remain focused. Cale inclined his head calmly, agreeing firmly. Indeed. We have plenty of our own preparations to make. Orion's situation reminds us to grow stronger steadily, without rushing recklessly forward. Valira's eyes brightened slightly, her previous worry slowly replaced by renewed enthusiasm. Exactly. If we actually slacked behind right now, he might have to beat us into shape later. Let's not let the matter reach that point. Elias couldn't help but laugh in amusement after calming down. If Orion knew his little incident today motivated us all this deeply, he might push himself even harder in the future. He truly is a different fellow. The group exchanged smiles, the atmosphere significantly lighter now despite their lingering concern. Arya took a deep breath, determination blazing fiercely within her gaze once more. All right, everyone. We'll continue training diligently and await Brother Orion's return patiently. We must grow stronger, so when he comes back, we can stand proudly alongside him. Sylvia softly laughed. I'm about to break through to the next level, I just need to get my hands on some bone-strengthening elixir and I can initiate it. The others looked at her with slight shock, as most of them were still at the second tier and were steadily pushing towards the third, but Sylvia had already reached the peak of it. The group continued to discuss for a while more before quietly dispersing, no one noticing the weird state of NYSS as she left. All of them left to do their own things, as some had to practice, some had to learn runes, while some just went to eat something good. Arya and Amelia lingered a moment longer beneath the cherry blossom tree, Arya's gaze distant yet resolute. Brother Orion. Arya murmured softly, determination unwavering in her bright eyes, I trust you'll recover swiftly and return stronger than ever. Until then, we'll all be working hard. You're not allowed to fall behind. Amelia stared at her for a second and hesitantly said, what if we're the ones falling behind? Arya's lips twitched. Turning her head, she sharply looked at her. Can't you let me hype myself up to train? Amelia hurriedly nodded her head. Cough, I was just joking, Lady Arya. How can we fall behind him? Let's head back and train. I'm also closing in on the third tier. Arya's lips curled into a smile as she giggled and nodded her head. Together, they turned and walked outside the academy, heading back to the palace. The garden returned once more to serene silence, cherry blossom petals drifting softly through the air, quietly marking the passing of time and the steadfast determination growing steadily within each friend, quietly awaiting Orion's return. Instructor Viren flew quietly above the grounds of Thunder Peak Royal Academy, his robes fluttering gently in the breeze. Beneath him, the sprawling academy grounds stretched out, bathed in the soft amber glow of the late afternoon sunlight. Students had calmed down by now after the pressure Eldrick exerted on the entire royal capital, as they animatedly talked about it. Chapter 179, Dean Alariel. Some attributed it to an attack on the royal capital by an enemy nation, while others said that one of the dukes had returned from the borders. Soon, students began to move around again, getting busy with classes and training, unaware of the other astonishing events that had just transpired deep within the academy's most sacred site, the Origin Mana Pool. The imposing sky pavilion loomed ahead, floating serenely atop a gentle bed of clouds. Viren paused momentarily, taking a steady breath to compose himself. While outwardly calm, his heart was still racing fiercely, images of Orion's shocking cultivation scene and Eldrick's overwhelming aura vividly etched into his mind. As he approached, Viren halted respectfully before the pavilion's translucent barrier, bowing slightly toward the sealed gates. His voice, clear and respectful, resonated softly in the sky. "Dean Alariel, Instructor Viren requests permission to enter." A momentary silence followed, the gentle humming of ancient arrays subtly vibrating through the air. Shortly after, a serene yet authoritative voice echoed gently around him. "Come in, Viren." At her words, the barrier silently parted, and Viren stepped carefully inside. The interior of the Sky Pavilion was tranquil and austere, perfectly reflecting the serene nature of the Dean herself. At the center of the inner chamber, beneath the gentle glow of softly floating mana lamps, Dean Alariel sat quietly at a small table, calmly sipping tea from a delicate jade cup. Viren immediately bowed once again, this time even more respectfully, fully aware of her esteemed position and unmatched insight. "Thank you for seeing me on such short notice, Dean Alariel." The Dean looked at him with calm, curious eyes, a faint yet knowing smile forming on her face as she set her cup down gently. "You are quite fortunate, Viren," she spoke softly, her tone lightly teasing yet filled with subtle seriousness. "Managing to return alive and unharmed from the old man's doorstep, that alone is a notable feat, especially considering you carried his unconscious grandson in your arms." Viren smiled sheepishly, knowing full well the immense danger he had briefly faced. "Indeed, Dean Alariel. Truthfully, the moment I entered the Hellstorm estate with Orion unconscious, I felt as though I stood before a furious dragon. Master Eldric's presence alone nearly overwhelmed me." Dean Alariel chuckled softly, amusement flickering momentarily in her sharp, perceptive eyes. "That's the old man for you. Few in this kingdom truly grasp just how terrifying that man can be when provoked, particularly regarding his grandson after that incident. Still, you remain here, standing before me, so clearly you handled the situation properly, or he has become soft after finding Orion." Viren exhaled softly, nodding in earnest agreement. "I must admit, however, today's events within the Origin mana pool were far beyond anything I had anticipated or witnessed in all my years here." Her eyebrows arched gently, interest clearly piqued by his serious tone. "Do tell me exactly what transpired." "While I do not use the academy to pry into the personal cultivation of our students, I naturally noticed your hurried departure with Orion unconscious. I made my guesses, but I prefer to hear the details from you directly." Taking another deep breath, Viren recounted carefully and precisely, explaining every shocking detail: Orion's overwhelming absorption of the Origin mana, his simultaneous breakthroughs in both mana cultivation and physique refinement, and finally, his dragon-like devouring of the entire pool's mana. As he described the vivid, awe-inspiring scene, the Dean's eyes subtly widened, her composed gaze flickering with clear astonishment and thoughtful consideration. After a momentary silence following Viren's account, Dean Alariel finally exhaled deeply, shaking her head gently as a complex smile played on her lips. "Truly astonishing. Orion's talent has repeatedly exceeded all of our expectations. His number of elements, the affinity level of them, his talent in sword during that duel, then the tower climb, and now this. To simultaneously refine both mana channels and physique cultivation paths to such a degree, under those circumstances, such a feat is nothing short of miraculous." Viren nodded solemnly, respect deepening in his voice. "Yes, Dean. The term monstrous genius hardly does him justice. Yet, what happened afterward at Hellstorm Estate was perhaps even more astonishing." She tilted her head slightly, her expression sharpening subtly. "Continue, Viren. What exactly happened with Eldric?" Viren hesitated briefly, recalling vividly the suffocating aura that had descended upon the entire royal capital. "When I arrived at the estate carrying Orion, Master Eldric immediately noticed us. His rage, it summoned thunderclouds and released a pressure I've never felt in my life. It affected not just the estate but the entire capital that I witnessed while returning. Nobles and commoners alike likely feared for their very lives." Dean Alariel's brows knitted slightly, clearly impressed yet unsurprised by Eldric's power. "I sensed the disturbance and his aura even from here, but to think he would really lose his cool so quickly. Truly terrifying, yet completely in line with what I know of him." Viren continued, voice slightly hushed with lingering awe. When Master Eldrick questioned me, I swiftly explained everything I witnessed at the Origin mana pool. Thankfully, after learning the details and confirming Orion's safety, he gradually calmed down. Master Eldrick instructed me explicitly to never reveal today's events, except directly to you, Dean. The Dean chuckled softly, shaking her head gently in amusement. Wise words indeed. Eldrick is cautious for good reason, particularly regarding Orion. The boy's potential is immense, unimaginably so. Eldrick will undoubtedly ensure Orion's path remains clear of unnecessary obstacles. CTHNafire.at website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. After a thoughtful pause, Viren finally voiced a question that had lingered in his heart since the terrifying encounter. Dean Alariel, exactly how powerful is Eldrick Hellstorm? Today, even as an instructor of this prestigious academy, I felt utterly powerless before his presence. Dean Alariel regarded Viren calmly, her expression serious yet respectful while talking about Eldrick. Truthfully? Sir Eldrick Hellstorm is easily the strongest individual currently within Thunderpeak Kingdom. Not even the Dukes can match him, he has long surpassed their limits. Among the living experts, only the old ancestor of the royal family, a figure who hasn't appeared openly in centuries, might stand a chance in direct confrontation. And even then, I remain uncertain whether the old ancestor could truly defeat him. Viren felt his heart skip a beat, fear and respect filling his heart thinking about the crazed old man. To think such an expert stays hidden within our kingdom and the gap was that immense. I knew Master Eldrick was powerful, but I underestimated him significantly. Dean Alariel smiled faintly, nodding quietly. Very few understand the true depths of Eldrick's power, precisely because he prefers to live quietly since losing his kid. That's why only recently he returned to the capital, to train Orion. That alone tells you how deeply he treasures the boy. Viren nodded deeply, understanding dawning clearly upon him. I understand, Dean. Orion's future growth will undoubtedly shape not only this kingdom but perhaps even beyond. The Dean lifted her teacup once more, taking another calm sip. Her eyes gazed thoughtfully toward the distant horizon, contemplation clear in her voice. Indeed, Viren. Orion really has the highest potential among all the students I have seen so far. Let's see how he will fare in the next test. Viren thoughtfully nodded. The second test? There is still time in that. Chapter 180, Waking Up. She set the cup down carefully, eyes sharpening subtly again as she regarded Viren. Continue watching over Orion discreetly, Viren, for as long as he is in the academy. Guide and support him subtly from the shadows. His journey is one we must carefully nurture yet never interfere with excessively. Viren bowed solemnly, accepting his responsibility clearly. Yes, Dean Alariel. You have my word, I will do all I can to support Orion's path appropriately. Satisfied, Dean Alariel smiled faintly, dismissing him gently with a wave. Then go and rest now, Viren. You've experienced enough excitement today. I shall carefully consider the implications of everything you've shared with me. Viren lightly rubbed the back of his head and sheepishly said, so about the salary raise that I asked before. Alariel became silent, looking serenely at Viren. Is this the reason you took the risk to head to Hellstorm's house? He lightly chuckled, No, how can I play with my life so lightly? But what can I do? I need money for my gambling addiction. Alariel became speechless before the two of them started discussing his salary, before soon Viren respectfully bowed and left in a happy mood. As he stepped outside, gently descending toward the academy grounds below, he felt the world become more colorful as he deeply breathed in the fresh mana-filled air. Warm sunlight filtered gently through the curtains, casting a soothing golden glow across Orion's room. The room was quiet, filled only with the faint rustling of leaves outside and the distant chirping of birds perched in the mansion's lush garden. Orion lay comfortably in his bed, his breathing steady and rhythmic, eyelashes fluttering faintly as consciousness gradually returned to him. His brow furrowed slightly, a faint discomfort lingering within his muscles and bones, remnants of the intense transformation his body had undergone. Slowly, Orion's eyes opened, his vision momentarily blurry before sharpening into clarity. He gazed at the familiar ceiling, momentarily disoriented as memories began flooding back, the overwhelming intensity of the origin mana pool, the fierce breakthroughs, the surging dragon bloodlines devouring all the mana. He slowly sat up, feeling a deep soreness permeating every fiber of his body. The exhaustion he felt was too strong yet strangely satisfying, like the comforting ache after an intense training session. Almost instantly, a cheerful screen appeared at his bedside, Lumi's vibrant text immediately popping up. Master. You're finally awake. Greater than over equal to less than over equal to, how are you feeling right now? Orion smiled faintly, his voice slightly tired yet calm. I feel tired. Like my body was run over by a herd of wild beasts. But aside from that, surprisingly all right. How long was I unconscious, Lumi? Lumi's screen flickered energetically as she replied swiftly. It's been exactly 2 days since your session in the origin mana pool. Everyone's been super worried about you, Master. But Grandma Celine and Grandpa Eldrick have been guarding your room carefully, ensuring you rest properly. Orion's eyebrows rose slightly in mild surprise, nodding thoughtfully. 2 whole days, longer than I expected, but considering what I went through, that seems reasonable. He then asked cautiously, carefully flexing his fingers and rotating his wrists, how exactly is my body doing, Lumi? Any lasting issues or side effects? Lumi's response was swift. Your condition is stable, Master, but due to the sudden massive leaps in both mana cultivation and physique refinement, your body will require a few more days to fully adapt to the increased strength and newly expanded channels. You should rest for a couple days to let your body fully adapt to the changes. Orion sighed softly, leaning back against the plush pillows thoughtfully. That makes sense. The breakthroughs came quickly, too quickly, perhaps. My entire being was strained to its absolute limits. Lumi's words became more excited yet tinged with subtle admiration. But Master, your breakthroughs were absolutely incredible. For all, you simultaneously broke through the second and third levels of both the basic mana training technique and the ninefold physique refinement scripture. Your mana channels expanded massively, now you have a total of 27 primal mana channels. Your sea of consciousness has quadrupled in size, and your physique has significantly strengthened. Orion blinked, slightly astonished as he digested this new information. 27 mana channels, no wonder the influx of mana became so overwhelming. I was barely managing to handle it until... He paused, his voice trailing off slightly as his gaze turned inward, recalling vividly the fierce stirring within his dragon bloodlines. Lumi, at the end, my dragon legacies, my true fire and thunder dragon bloodlines, decided to pay rent. They surged suddenly and aggressively devoured all the mana from the origin mana pool. It was as if my body acted purely on instinct. Lumi speechlessly heard him talking about rent before thoughtfully saying, Yes, Master. Your dragon legacies stirred awake in response to the intense situation, protecting you by actively devouring the remaining origin mana. This helped stabilize your breakthroughs, ensuring your body could absorb and utilize the overwhelming influx without permanent harm. And this also helped to push your dragon evolution further. We can't be sure how long it will take, but it should be infinitely close now. Orion nodded with a serious expression, fully understanding the gravity of Lumi's words. Evolution, huh? I also feel rather full, as if my entire body is saturated to its limit. I wonder what will happen during my evolution. We can't be sure as you are not really a true dragon or a human, it might be a unique experience or the same as other dragons. Orion sighed lightly, I can't know what will happen, neither can I train, nor can I go to the academy, back to the bum days Lumi's voice echoed immediately in his mind. No, you can't do any of that, Master. Remember, patience is key right now. Rushing further might strain your already exhausted physique. Orion exhaled gently, nodding calmly. You're right, Lumi. I'll heed your advice and rest properly for the next few days. My body deserves it after everything it endured. Lumi cheerfully flickered again, expressing her approval. Yay! Master is finally listening to proper advice. You deserve this rest. Orion chuckled softly, feeling warmth in his heart from Lumi's ever-present enthusiasm and sincere care. He knew clearly how fortunate he was to have such loyal support and guidance at every step of his difficult journey. His gaze drifted thoughtfully toward the window, wondering how his grandparents reacted to his unconscious body. Quietly, he asked Lumi, "Did anything else happen during my unconsciousness? Did my grandparents cause any trouble due to my condition?" Lumi answered sheepishly, her text flickering shyly. Grandpa Eldrick might have scared the entire royal capital with his anger and aura when you arrived unconscious. But after hearing your condition clearly, both he and Grandma Celine calmed down, focusing solely on ensuring your peaceful recovery. Orion rubbed his forehead with amusement. Grandpa really is something. What did he even do to scare the entire capital? And did none of the noble houses come to cause trouble? Lumi giggled softly. I didn't hear any commotion, maybe Arya's father helped out. Orion stretched lightly, his body feeling heavy yet much stronger than before. With a resolute sigh, he swung his legs over the side of the bed and slowly rose to his feet. Immediately, Lumi's screen flashed with urgency beside him. Master. What exactly do you think you're doing? Didn't you just agree to rest? Sir, the novelier.net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Orion chuckled lightly, giving a gentle shake of his head as he replied casually, Relax, Lumi. If I'm going to rest, I might as well spend it usefully. I'll just sit down in Seraph's room and have a small chat with her. Staying here idly feels too stuffy. Lumi's screen flickered uncertainly, clearly torn between enforcing strict rest and approving Orion's kind intentions. Well, I guess talking quietly with Seraph isn't exactly strenuous. But please take it easy, Master. Equal to or succeeds equal to or precedes. Smiling softly, Orion slowly made his way to the door. The moment he opened it, two small figures waiting anxiously outside immediately turned around in surprise.